Councillor Donnelly. Apologies, Councillor Doyle. Councillor Kieran. Councillor Hannafy. Councillor Haughey. Councillor Healy. Councillor Hopkins. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Johnson. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kitt. Apologies, Councillor Leddy. Councillor Maguire. Councillor McCamley. Councillor McDonough. Councillor Mulligan. Councillor Mulville. Councillor Murphy. Councillor Newman. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Leary.
Here.
Councillor Onyemera. Councillor Quinlan. Councillor Quinn. Councillor Redwood. Councillor Ryan. Councillor Sheehan. Councillor Shovlin. Councillor Smith. Councillor Tormley. Councillor Troy. Councillor Walsh.
Okay, so all mobile phones should be on silent or switched off for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being webcast. All members, please remember to switch off your microphone when you finish speaking. All members are reminded that the chamber is a non-smoking vaping area. Standing orders will apply to all aspects of the meeting. Councillors are reminded of the provision Standing Order number 92 that all members are bound to act in accordance with the Ethics Framework and Code of Conduct for Local Authority members to cooperate with the orderly conduct of meetings, direction of the Mayor, and in a manner that is respectful of colleagues. Members have been circulated with the agenda for today's meeting. Any member forming the view that they have a conflict of interest in the matters of subject of today's agenda should now disclose same. Councillors are also reminded of the provisions Standing Order number 93 that members must bear in mind that discussions at council meetings are not privileged. No member may make false statements, impute improper motives, or use offensive or unbecoming words in reference to any member of the council, employee of the council, or any other person. Any member having made such statements or used such objectionable words and not explaining or retracting same or offering apologies for use thereof when requested by the Mayor to do so shall be called upon by the Mayor to withdraw from the meeting. A member making any such statements or comments may find themselves personally liable for them. Okay, go to the agenda. Item 1, confirmation and reaffirmation of minutes of the council meeting held on the 13th of October, proposed by Councillor Dennison and seconded. Not agreed. So Councillor Humphreys.
Mayor, I did item F4225. It's not a full and accurate kind of recording of the minutes of the meeting when we were discussing that item. I'd certainly like it to be amended to highlight the fact that the Mayor's ruling was not in line with standing orders, and certainly would like my objection to his ruling be included in the standing order, or within the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, and Councillor David Healy.
Thanks, Chair. I think in addition the motions submitted should be reproduced in the minutes so that people know what the substance of the discussion was. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go over to Mary Egan. What are we doing with that? Are you going to note that and change it?
Councillor Humphreys, can you just give us the reference?
It's F4225. There was a discussion on the 3-year capital programme.
Can you just get that on the screen?
For clarity, it should probably just quote what the Mayor said in the meeting and the objection raised, and there isn't a record of what the motions were. I think that's the best way to proceed forward for the minutes.
The motions, if they're ruled out of order, do not appear on the agenda. Or in the minutes. Sorry, not the agenda, the minutes. If they're ruled out of order, they're out of order, so therefore they're not recorded. But sorry, I'm just having a look now at how we have recorded if we can have it on the screen. So during discussion, the Mayor, Councillor O'Leary, informed the members the motions. Thank you. The motions that 6 motions have been received. Councillor Healy were ruled out of order. The capital programme was noted. That's
Okay,
factual.
so
I'm requesting that the reason the Mayor gave to the meeting be included in the minutes, as the reason he gave in the meetings is not included in standing orders, and I would like a written record for prosperity of the Mayor's decision on that.
The minutes generally record that the action, as in that and the decision that the motions were ruled out of order, and that's it. And then the programme was noted.
In the meeting, what he's ruling them out, I'd like to do it in the minutes.
The minutes.
The Mayor quoted the passage in the standing orders to justify running Councillor Healy's motions out of order. I would like that to be recorded in the minutes. He inferred that he was ruling them out because Councillor Healy did not include where the money was coming from within his motions. In my view, which is obviously my own view, is not necessary for this debate. But I just want the Mayor's words to be recorded in the minutes.
The minutes reflect the decision that was taken at the meeting. And the decision of the Mayor was that the 6 motions that were received by Councillor Healy were ruled out of order. And then that the capital, but the minutes just will record the decision of the Mayor, which was that he ruled the 6 motions out of order, and then that the capital programme was noted. That's, as far as I'm concerned, the minutes are correct in terms of recording the decision of the Mayor and the meeting on the night.
okay, so are the minutes agreed?
No,
As-
we respectfully disagree.
Okay. Say again. Looks like. Okay, vote on the minutes. Sorry, what's going on? Point of order, Owen O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. Point of order. Okay, so this is just so I can get this clear and that we're all clear on what we're about to vote on. The minutes, the record of the meeting, there's a kind of a structure. That's how they're done. Has always been, or not always, but you know, I think Ms. Egan kind of explained what way the decisions are reflected in the minutes, votes are recorded, etc., etc. Councillor Humphreys is well within his rights to dissent, but if the minutes are voted down, I mean, that's an accurate reflection of what happened in the meeting, as recorded, as has always been the way. So the point of order, sorry, that's a long-winded way of saying, what's the outcome if the members reject the minutes that are recorded as the minutes are recorded every month?
Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, just point of order on the basis that possibly a motion could be put in just to alter what's there, the report, on the basis ruled out because of or is that already shown somewhere else in the minutes? But I certainly wouldn't want to be voting down the agreement of the minutes when there's probably a solution can be found. Thanks.
So, we're going to a vote? Yeah.
A motion can be put down to amend the minutes, if that's what the members wish. And then we can vote on that, and I'm assuming that's what Councillor Humphreys is.
Councillor David Healy.
Just in terms of whether the practice is always to say that it's been ruled out of order without giving the reason, it didn't take long in a search of our minutes to find an example of a motion being ruled out of order in accordance with Standing Order 80. Now, if you want to set out, Chair, I think for the benefit of the meeting and the benefit of the minutes, it would be good practice that you would set out the basis upon which you ruled those motions out of order, and then we would vote on it. And we can come back to these minutes next month if that's necessary.
I am not going to rerun the capital plan meeting. I've made my ruling, and as Mayor, you're entitled to do that. I use words at the meeting, but at the conclusion of those words, whether it was due to those words that I said that I ruled them out of order or not, that's not necessarily the case. I made the decision to rule them out of order, like many mayors before, and it's a fact. They were ruled out of order, and it's recorded in the minutes. And I don't know how you want to handle this, or Councillor Humphreys wants to reflect that he doesn't agree with that and put it in the minutes. I don't have an issue with that, but I don't know what we're going to do here. But the motions were ruled out of order, and that's it. It's history now. Sorry. And no, I don't want to say any more on it. That's it. Councillor Brendan Ryan.
Thanks, Mayor. I think we have to accept that the Mayor's role in ruling on motions, it comes under a heading which suggests interpretation of standing orders. So Mayors don't have a free range to rule stuff out of order. It has to be about interpreting standing orders, and I think that's what the key issue is here.
So, do you want to accept the minutes or not, or put it to a vote? Councillor Walsh.
Mayor, it is a point of order, I think follows up Councillor O'Brien's. I'm just asking, and Councillor Healy's, I'm just wondering, Mayor, without in any way rerunning the debate of the last meeting, which I certainly don't want to do, and perhaps to save time, is it possible simply to add the number of the standing order on which the decision was made? And then if Councillor Humphreys disagrees with that, he can obviously has the right to dissent from it.
Okay, I don't know. I'm advised here that we can take an amendment to the minutes if someone wishes to put forward an amendment. I don't know. You're making the proposals over there, so make an amendment if you wish to, or else the minutes have to go to a vote here.
We haven't called a vote because we don't know what it hasn't been determined what the amended motion is, or the amendment to the minutes is. So
The Chief Executive.
Members, thanks, Mayor. Members, just in terms of what is the contributions to the meeting, there doesn't seem to be a dispute as to the accuracy of the minutes. What's in dispute is the fact that the reason why some motions are ruled out of order is not recorded, but the actual fact, the record of the meeting that the Mayor ruled the motions out of order is accurately reflected in the minutes. I think everybody's agreeing to that. So I'd suggest a vote on the minutes is not the way forward, because all members seem to agree that they're factual. If the amendment to the minutes and a motion to amend the minutes is a different item, and therefore you'd have to record why, I think you're looking to include the reason for the ruling as opposed to the ruling itself.
with the accuracy of the minutes because they're not a full representation of what happened during that debate. It missing a key element of the decision that was made. Therefore, I raise my objections to the minutes. I have no intention of submitting a motion. I am just recording for the record that this is not a full accurate of the Mayor's decision when he was making a ruling.
Move on. Right. So, David Healy.
Yeah. Cormac Vera. We have a difficulty in proposing, or Councillor Humphreys or anybody else has a difficulty in proposing a motion to say under which standing order you ruled it out, because you didn't say at the meeting, Chair, and if we knew, then we could put in the motion. I'm just looking at our minutes from our budget meeting from a meeting in April 2023, a consideration of draft annual financial statement, and Councillor Tormey proposed a motion to amend the transfers to capital. And the Mayor, Councillor Mahoney, ruled the motion out of order under Standing Order number 70. That's what we recorded in the minutes in April 2023. That's the form that we should be using here. We should know under what standing order you ruled the motions out of order. And we're not in a position to read your mind, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to read out an email I sent to Councillor Healy on the 31st of October. Dear Councillor Healy, I refer to your recent email in relation to 6 amendments to the capital programme which you submitted at the council meeting last Monday, 13th of October. As Mayor, I ruled that the amendments were out of order in accordance with Standing Order 157, a ruling of the Mayor Cathaoirleach, and any question or their interpretation of Standing Order shall be final. I trust this clarifies the matter for you. Tom. So that's it. I made a ruling. I'm sorry.
Point of order, that standing order is only in place when it is not covered by standing orders.
We're half an hour now at this, dancing around the pin. So, what are we going to do on this? Are the minutes accepted? Are the minutes accepted? Agreed? They're not agreed. Yeah, Jimmy Gearan.
I think you'll be entering very dangerous territory if you're starting to question the content of every single item. The purpose of the minutes is to reflect what happened at the meeting, and they do that correctly. Now, should you then record what Councillor Gearan objected to, what Councillor Newman objected to, what Councillor Humphreys agreed to, and so on and so forth, that is an accurate reflection of the meeting on the night, and it was your ruling which the Mayor and previous mayors, they rule on motions, that's final. I think you're entering dangerous territory by accepting that there's anything wrong with those minutes. Okay. There isn't.
Right, Councillor Joe Newman.
Suppose we accept the minutes.
I second that. And Councillor Kieran Dennison.
Mayor, I propose these minutes. There is a record of the meeting that we had. It's on the webcast.
All right, okay, so the minutes are proposed. I'm seconding. Are they agreed? Agreed. Is there no? Do I hear no? Right, so vote. Oh, sure. I did expect. I note Councillor Humphreys has decided to be Councillor Grumpy and challenge everything since they're outside the tent. Oh, Jesus.
So, members, the result of the vote is yes 22, no 10 and 5 abstentions.
Okay. So then we move on to item number 2, nominations, and we have 2A, appointment of 7 members to Fingal North, TMR North Local Community Safety Partnership, and I think we have 7 for 7 positions, unless there's anyone else wants to put their name forward at this meeting now. Okay, so we've 7. Can we go through the 7 names proposed and second?
Okay, this is as a result of the expressions of interest. So Councillor Corkery.
Proposed by Councillor Evie Tormey. I second Councillor Corkery. Well, you have to do them. You have to do them individually.
Mayor and Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Owen Dockrell.
Have you got the names?
Yeah.
Evie Tormey and Councillor Luke Corkery.
Councillor Haughey.
Councillor Haughey. Proposed by Owen O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Dara Butler.
Councillor Healy.
Councillor Healy. I'll propose Councillor Healy. By Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Councillor Johnston.
Seconded by Councillor Brian McDonough. Proposed by Councillor John Lodge.
Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Proposed by Tony Murphy, Councillor Murphy, and seconded by Jimmy Gearan.
And Councillor Malachi Quinn.
By Angela Donnelly, seconded by Councillor Breda Hannafy. So that's that one done. Okay, great. So then we go on to 2B. Appointment of 7 members to Fingal West, DMR West Local Community Safety Partnership. And I understand we have 8 for 7, so I'm going to go over to Mary Egan.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, as you say, the expressions of interest, we got 8, so therefore we will be going to the, well, I suppose firstly, group voting applies in this instance. It should councillors wish to involve the group voting, or we go to the floor and take nominations and proposed and seconded from the floor. If you just want to maybe I'll remind councillors on the operation of group voting, which is done under the Local Government Act 2001, and it outlines the right to form groups for certain appointments, and this is one of those appointments. And in accordance with the legislation, the number of elected members necessary to form a group must be obtained by dividing the total number of elected members present by the number of appointments to be made. And if there's a fraction, then you go to the next whole number. So there are 37 members present, and there are 7 vacancies to be filled. Therefore, a group must consist of 6 members.
Yep.
38. It does.
Angela Donnelly.
Could we have the names up? I think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of explaining how the group voting works, because the criteria is very simple and it's very clear in terms of, you know, members of political parties, members of LEAs, gender balance. So I would hate to see us having a group voting scheme that doesn't produce the gender balance, the political party representation. So I'd like to see who the 8 members are up on the screen, because I'm a little bit concerned at this, to be honest.
Okay, we can show the 8. That's absolutely fine. I was going to come to that there's you have to have an appropriate gender balance, political balance, and geographical balance in making the appointments. So that has to be borne in mind. So those are the 8 councillors who expressed an interest.
Right, what are we doing? What's the...
Sorry, Mayor. So I suppose it's completely up to members which way they want to go with it. We already have one grouping submitted of 6 members, just so members are aware of that. But I'm completely in your hands as to...
Members for the other, what's the political makeup of those?
Only 7 applications.
Okay, so we had Sinn Féin, Independent, Labour, Green, Fianna Fáil, 2 Fine Gael.
Only 7 applications. 7 people applied. 2 calls. 3 calls, I asked here again. Only 7 applications. Yeah, okay, so, right. So are we going to vote on these individually, go down to the list proposed second, or are we going to group voting? What does the room want to do? Yeah, sorry, John Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, happy obviously for Ms. Egan to explain the process. Just to note that we have formed a group. I can declare that group if you want. That's Councillor Walsh, Councillor McCamley, Councillor Ryan, Councillor Johnston, Councillor Boland and Councillor Humphreys.
Okay, I'll have to take advice on the left.
Group voting can apply and does apply to this appointment. So if members wish to use group voting, they can. But I might just go through the process for group voting, just to be clear. So once formed, a group can then nominate a person to be a member of the committee, and they are so appointed without any further vote being taken. No member shall be a member of more than one group for the purposes of this process. And once any group appointments are made to a particular committee, the succeeding appointments to that committee are made in the normal way by majority vote. And only those members who did not form part of any group or who were present at the time the business of making the appointments was reached, in relation to that committee. So in other words, if members of the group cannot then participate in further voting afterwards. So groups can be formed, nominate their person, but then they're excluded from voting in subsequent votes.
Right. Do we need to take a couple of minutes? It looks like we need to take a couple of minutes. 3 minutes, okay, 3 minutes. Okay, how do you formally... Okay, the meeting's recommencing. And the Labour Party, John Walsh, Labour Party. So as the Labour Party have formed a group, I am seeking a nomination, the name from the Labour Party. Seconded by Brian McDonough. So as this is a group vote, John Walsh is duly nominated for that committee, or appointed. Thank you. So now we're going on to the next names that are left, and we're not running through a list. I see Councillor Evie Tormey. I'm taking nominations from the floor. Okay. So Councillor Tormey.
So I'd like to propose 2 people. Number 1, Kieran Dennison, and number 2, Ted Leddy, and I've got seconders here.
So,
yeah.
Yes. So, are they agreed?
Agreed.
They agreed? Agreed? Yeah? Proposed and seconded individually.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Propose Kieran Dennison.
Seconded.
Agreed.
Agreed. And then?
Proposed Ted Leddy. Seconded.
By Owen
Agreed.
Dockrell. So now I have Councillor Owen O'Brien. The list will not be in that order. It's from the floor. Okay, there's a request for the list. Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Proposed Councillor Carbone Mangan.
By Councillor Cahill Haughey. Okay, Councillor Tony Murphy. and seconded by Councillor Darren Jack Kelly. Is that agreed? Agreed? Agreed. Councillor Dean Mulligan.
Councillor John Burchell.
And seconded by Councillor Mulville. Sorry. Yeah, is that agreed? Agreed. Councillor Breda Hannafy.
Opposed, Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Seconded by Jimmy Gearan. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
How many have we now? I'm losing. That's it. We've 7 filled. So the 7 positions are now filled and appointed. So I'm moving on to the next item, which is Councillor Quinlan. Motion. Sorry, no, that's questions. Sorry. So questions 3 to 12. Noted. Is it noted or noted? Proposed and seconded. Councillor 3 to 12. Proposed by me, seconded by Kieran Dennison. And then going on to, report of committees. So these are for noting. So 13, I'm going to, well, have to read them all out, I do, yeah. Right. Report of committees, 13A, report of corporate policy group meeting on Tuesday, 21st of October. I'll propose, if somebody would second, Kieran Dennison. B, report of corporate policy group meeting held on Monday, 3rd of November. I propose, if someone will second, Owen O'Brien. C, report of Holt Malahide area meeting services be held on the, proposed by Owen O'Brien, I think, and Councillor Hopkins, second report by Blanchardstown, Mulhuddard, D, Castleknock, Ongar Services B, Area Committee held on Thursday, 6th of October, proposed by Councillor John Walsh and seconded by Tom Kitt, Councillor. And then we're rolling on to number 14 in Soliver. It's financial matters overdraft facility. I understand this is a renewal of the one we had last year. Oliver.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just need the members to approve the report to renew our overdraft facility for 2026.
So that's proposed by Councillor Dennison, seconded by David Healy. Agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So proposed disposal of properties, 15A notice. Proposed lease of land, Ballymastone, Donabay County to Donabay Golf CLG, Balcarrick, County Dublin. Proposed by Councillor Morgan, seconded by Cathal Boland. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. And then we go on to 15. Yes? Can't hear. Say again. Defont. Is it? Right. Go on. 15B, proposed disposal of fee simple interest of dwellings. Is it a few, or what have we to do with this?
There's a list there, Mayor.
Have we to go through them one by one? Or?
No.
No. So can I propose, I'll propose it if somebody will second. By Councillor Dennison. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, declaration of roads, 16A, Grays Lane, Holt, County Dublin. Proposed by Councillor O'Brien, seconded by Councillor Jimmy Gearan. And is that agreed? Agreed, great. So now we're on to the draft Old School House Master Plans, Clonsilla. And do you want a presentation or not? I understand this has been well discussed at Area Committee. Do you want a presentation or yes or no? Yes? No. So is it proposed by Councillor Walsh, seconded by, Councillor Dennison over there. Sorry, Angela. So that's agreed. Agreed. Chief Executive's report. That was the sprint. Anyway.
Members, happy for you to take the Chief Executive's report as read and to answer any questions in relation to it.
I forgot to mention that at the top of the meeting. I should have. So I'll probably get myself in trouble again. But anyway, here we go. So I've received the motion, and as Mayor, I'm ruling the motion out of order. Yes, sorry, I should say what it is. It's emergency motion on Fort Lawn. Is that correct? Yes. To who? Who did you email it to? Sorry, Corporate Services and Mayor. Okay. Just so everyone knows, I don't see Mayor. The staff see it. I do not see anything in Mayor. It's sent on to me. Okay, so on a daily basis, it does, when it lands in Mayor, I don't see it straight away. It's sent on to me. I'm just letting you know. Right, okay, so we have a motion on C's report, correct? Yes. All right. Okay, so what are we going to do with that?
Usually we take, if there are any questions on the C's report, and then we'd move to motions if the motion is in order, Mayor.
Okay, right. So we'll take contributions on, if you want to speak, or do you want to say anything leading out? And then if you want to speak on items on the C's report. Do you want to speak? Okay, so is there any, I've no one here putting, Patrick Quinlan, yeah. So Councillor Quinlan.
Thank you very much, sir. Just very quickly, I've seen the Community Recognition Fund, €1.8 million for 26 projects being allocated to Fingal County Council. Just very briefly explain exactly what that fund is, where the money comes from and why it's being sent to Fingal County Council. In relation to affordable housing, I've seen a table on page 64 that shows multiple projects that have been completed and in the process of being sale agreed. What was the cost to build per unit for each individual site, each individual unit on each individual site, and then what was the final sale price? If you want, you can collate that all together. Give me a total figure for how much it actually cost to build all these developments, and then how much the total sale of these developments fetched Fingal County Council. In relation to cost rental, I'm seeing a lottery-based system being mentioned. Can that be explained exactly what the lottery-based system is? If it's a point system or something like this, a bit of clarification on that would be nice. 244 new HAP tenancies in Fingal County Council. Is it possible to get a breakdown based on nationality of who got those tenancies? Doesn't have to be on an individual basis, but again, just the total figure would be nice. And that's it. That's essentially it. Thank you.
Councillor Breda Hannafy.
Thank you, and I want to thank the Chief Executive for the report. I have a couple of questions regarding Wilkinson's Brook, page 64. There are very serious issues and questions regarding this development. How come the developer sold the homes to the LDA? A development that had such serious issues in relation to water ingress that the homeowners will have to be moved out to have the remedial works done on their homes. How both Fingal and the LDA were not aware of the problems before they were sold on. Was there not an architectural inspection, a snag list done prior to these properties being sold on? The inspection report that was carried out by Glenveigh regarding water ingress, has the manager and the residents received a report from Glenveigh on the issues affecting the houses? Have the council initiated any deeper examinations into the structures of the entire houses, or are they relying on Glenveigh's assessment of the works? How many social homes have the council in this development? Are they occupied? If not, why? And just that Paul Donnelly TD, he requested a copy of the report, and why is this not being furnished to him so far? Thank you.
Okay, Councillor John Burchell.
Also on Wilkinson's Brook, as Councillor Hannafy has said, there are issues with all of the homes built. Glenveigh again at the centre of a construction standard scandal following on from the Oscar Traynor Road debacle earlier in the year. That is the flagship affordable home scheme in the state, the biggest one in the state. Wilkinson's Brook much smaller, but again we see a pattern here. So do Glenveigh take the council, the purchasers of their homes for mugs here? These are the very basics of construction. Damp courses, problems with damp courses, problems with radon membranes which have severe health implications if they're not installed properly. So the point is, the private sector has let us down so many times because it's not trying to do what we need it to do. It's trying to make money. It's not trying to provide quality, affordable homes for people. So they charge too much and the build quality is poor. And nobody is really holding to the task, on a consistent basis. And they know this, which is why shoddy workmanship predominates in many cases. So really, the council needs to step up here, and the Land Development Agency, and bring these profiteers to heel if necessary. Thank you.
Councillor Siobhan Shovel.
That was really quick today. Normally there's a long wait. Just a few observations and questions if somebody at the top table will be able to answer. I've had a number of people in touch with me about another water outage in Laurel Lodge area. I'm just wondering, are there any clinics coming up with Irish Water? I know there was one a while back which I attended. I think it would be helpful because we are getting quite a few queries. Just as well as that, I know a number of residents in Dublin 15 attended the recent tourism event, and just if we could consider ways in which we could address just having Dublin 15 included a little bit more as part of this, because it had been said to me that there wasn't really a whole lot of mention of Dublin 15 at that event. So just if we could be mindful and consider ways in which we can include the area going forward, that would be brilliant. Really positive to see Laurel Lodge Playground commence. I'm just wondering when we hope that that will be ready for use. And finally, just leaf sweeping. I've had a few phone calls today just about leaf sweeping. One of the responses I got was somewhere along the lines that it had been paused for a while. Just if I could get a little bit more clarity around that, that would be brilliant. I wasn't aware that that was something that generally happened. Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor John Smith.
Thank you. Just two quick ones. One in relation to Ballynamona. I won't rehash the discussions we had previously around the issues with Abbey Lee or Abbey Vale, sorry, and the boundary wall there. We've been waiting for a number of months for the meeting to be had between the council representatives and representatives of the residents. I tried to arrange this directly myself, was told it was better off coming from the council, but we're nearly into December now and we're still waiting for that meeting. So if there can be an update in relation to that. And the other is on behalf of residents in Knocksedan, recent changes to the Ward River Valley Park without any communication and closures of their essential link, which questionable if it's a link or not, to Swords Manor and the buses and the other amenities there. If we could get an update or a time frame of what is actually happening within the pathways within the park and when we can see them reopening or a more permanent solution to the link between the two areas. Thank you.
Mr. Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just two things I'd like to cover. Number one is the stats on the vacancy and dereliction. So you will know from our time in Utrecht 2 weeks ago, we saw literally zero vacant or derelict properties. So we have 30 on the list. We've had 15 this year, and I believe the process is far too onerous, too long, and it's too expensive how we do it. In other EU jurisdictions, they simply have the utility companies advise their revenue collectors when they haven't received or when buildings haven't been using utilities for 3 months, and then they start collecting the rate of tax, which is punitive. So rather than having teams of people, as we do, trying to go through a very onerous process to prove whether somebody is living there, whether it's derelict or vacant or whatever. So it is something that we need to look at because we've reached record numbers again, and not in a good way. 16,500 people homeless, 5,200 of them who are children. We're heading into Christmas with children with no homes. So just on the week that Sister Stan, who I used to work for, she gave me this book before I left Focus Point, and she wrote this book about 40 years ago, and I'm just going to read you a small part about it, or from it. There are no justifiable reasons for homelessness. It is not a question of funds or resources, it's a question of priorities and values. It seems that the lobbies who are concerned about the protection of property have more clout than those of us who are concerned about the protection and safety of young people. So that's 40 years ago. Sister Stan died this week, and I think we should honour her by finally getting rid of homelessness in this country. And I think a good start is to use the houses that we already have. Secondly, I just want to ask about the lifeguards on page 49. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the lifeguards, because it's kind of buried in the report, but they're actually saving lives, and it's phenomenal the number of rescues that they did. But I just have one question. 90% of the rescues appear to be in Sutton and Malahide, and I'm just wondering, like obviously, like Portmarnock is our busiest beach, and the numbers are totally insignificant in Portmarnock compared to Sutton and Malahide? And is that because they are both places where we have do not swim, strong currents? Is that an issue, and do we need something to make those beaches safer? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James Humphreys.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on page 54, meetings and workshops. Was this an ad hoc meeting, or is this something that's going to be held quarterly or monthly within the executive team? And if it is going to be a regular meeting, could a briefing be given to the councillors affected at the next area meeting, or even kind of ad hoc online or Zoom to keep everyone kind of informed, up to date, so there's no miscommunication going out to the community?
Councillor Ellen Troy.
I've just got a question. I don't know which page it refers to now, but air and noise complaints. There was a total of 12 noise complaints received and investigated during October. Complaints were received regarding neighbour-to-neighbour noise, drone delivery noise and construction site noise, and noise associated with commercial activities. But it's nothing like the complaints that I've received, and many of us here, about the drones in Dublin 15. So I'm just amazed that there's 12 total for the month, where there was a public meeting and there was over 200 people at it complaining about noise. So just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor David Healy.
And thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. Just noting the section in the report about preparation for gritting this winter of the roads. We've discussed on a number of occasions the need to ensure that we do gritting on our cycleways, our footpaths, and in particular any bridges that we have on those routes, which have tended to become very dangerous spots. And I'd just be grateful for an update on knowing that we'll be able to certainly ensure that all of our bridges are salted or gritted. Thank you.
Councillor Mary McCamry.
Just going back there to Wilkinson Brook, somebody asked me to ask about the 12 units that the council own, social housing, and do they do their own inspections? Another question about the leaf cages, this is an environment issue. The leaf cages have been really, really successful, but when I ask for more, there aren't any more, which is a pity because people are putting their leaves in there. So I would like the council to deal with the company and try and get some more of those, because they are quite successful around this time of the year. Another thing was, I was at the tourist conference in the Crown Plaza Hotel, which was a great event. But yeah, I was disappointed that Dublin 15 wasn't mentioned, except once by, I think, the girl from Tourism Ireland. She did mention the Greenway. Up to that, we weren't mentioned. I think the Mayor may have mentioned the Draft once. But I mean, there's so many things in Dublin 15 that we really need to form a group now and do our own tourist strategy and have it there, so that we can go to these things and be proud of where we live, because obviously North County Dublin was getting all the attention that morning, even though we were in Dublin 15. So, but thanks to the council for running the event, and it was a good event to be at. Thank you.
Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Yeah, just to thank the Chief Executive for the report, and just two things. One is, I just want to commend the operations team for the removal of leaves in certain areas. I've been in contact with them, and they were pretty prompt in their response in removing them leaves. And I would concur with Councillor McCanley, if we can get more of those them containers, it'd be great, because it'd make it much easier for the areas that I'd mentioned. And then there's plenty of work being done under public lighting, and I just need to highlight, and I've highlighted it at the last local area meeting, we have put in a signalised crossing on Clonard Boulevard Road in Balbriggan, just at the shopping centre for the Stephenstown School Complex. It is still not turned on. It is with the ESB. I've actually asked somebody that works senior in the ESB that I know in Balbriggan, and they said that it is on a list. This is the response we got back from Fingal as well. I'm just asking if Fingal can apply some pressure on that, because we're coming up to Christmas now, and there is up to 600 students crossing that road now. Last year, there was 600 students crossing our main road with cars going up and down. Now, the council have done some great work in putting the signalised crossing in. We just need the ESB to do their job and turn it on. So please, if Fingal can make another contact with them, thank you.
So, Councillor John Walsh.
Thanks. Thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. A couple of things, actually. Just to request just an update on the Royal Canal Greenway. Had a lot of people just asking when the planning permission or planning application for the Royal Canal Greenway will go in. The tourism event as well that Councillor McCamley attended, just want to support the points she made. I couldn't make it myself, but a number of people who were there said, you know, it was a great event, great to have it, great to have that event, but there was a lot of disappointment that Dublin 15 didn't really feature in the presentations from Fingal Council in relation to tourism. So perhaps that's something we could consider again. In terms of leaf fall, I suppose I'd just like to confirm that it's not normal practice to charge residents who collect leaves themselves, who get bags and collect leaves. I understand that may have happened, and it may have happened inadvertently. A resident said that she had collected leaves herself and brought them up to the depot and was charged in Kilmine. Now, you know, it may be that people don't know the exact protocol, and we need to publicise that better. But just obviously, if residents are doing their bit to collect leaves, I think we want to make sure that we want to encourage that and not penalise them for doing that. And then finally, great that the old schoolhouse master plan was approved today, and just pay tribute to the very extensive engagement from the community on that, and also the work of the planners. And you know, it would be great to just consider the council actually buying the old schoolhouse. I know that was considered before, so it would be great if some consideration could be given to that again. It's a priceless heritage building and could be an important part of a tourism strategy for Dublin 15. Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor J.K. Onawera.
Thank you. Thanks to the Chief Executive for the report. We've had a number of community centres reopened lately, and given the feedback from residents, just want to say huge thanks, especially the reopening of St. Margaret's Parochial Hall, Hartstown, and Baldoyle. The community centres are the heart of our community. Offers us an opportunity for places where people can go to really mix up and hold activities. So it is quite heartwarming that these places are open. Another key issue I also thought to raise would be CCTVs. Given the reaction from Mixtown, the CCTV there at the community center, just wondering if we would be looking at maybe installing a CCTV in Terrellstown Park as well, where we've had a number of arsons and destruction to county properties. Perhaps we could get an answer to that. Thanks.
Councillor Joe Newman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of things. One, I'd like to just congratulate the Economic Tourism Department there for the symposium that they put on the other day, on Wednesday. I have to say I was very impressed with the presentations, and I think we're in good hands in that regard. And I would also like for a special mention for Mr. Declan Power, who gave a really fantastic presentation and handled the meeting very well. And thanks for that. It was good to see the Fingal Food Circle there, and it's just I'd like, as it grows, get a bit more information on that. I think it's a fantastic initiative, and it just shows the support that we're giving to small business and that. The other thing is I'd just like a little bit of maybe a bit more understanding on the strategic policy, the local area plans, master plans and framework plans. And it says that we're probably examining factors such as planning history, site activation, service and potential with regards where concerns arise about deliverability. We are exploring the scope for alternative zoning to supply short to medium term housing delivery. Just to give me a little bit of explanation, does that mean we're going to zone, maybe there's a business estate or something like that that we could probably put houses in? So just a little bit of an explanation on that. Thanks.
Councillor Owen O'Brien.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of questions on a couple of different sections in the report. First, under planning and strategic infrastructure, the Concealy connectivity scheme that was split off into two pieces. Obviously, there's progress being made on the Portmarnock Dart Station link, and I'm kind of a little bit concerned about the reference in the report to the Concealy lane towards Malahide piece. The director might be able to give an update on, or a bit more information on where that's at. Under the active travel section, I'd appreciate a further update on the New Street works. And then to come back to something I've raised time and again here, Mayor, a couple of things. The rollout of CCTV at the Bring Banks, where are we at with that? There are areas that are consistently littered. And finally then, just an update on progress around how we're dealing with restricted breeds, off leash and so forth in our local parks. It's something that's been that's certainly on the rise. So just an update on that. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, and Councillor Darren Jack Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the Chief Executive for the report. It's just a couple of small things, really. It's just one thing there I noticed there, the before and after photo of Ashley Estate with the leaves on the ground. And we know it's this time of year, it's quite difficult to keep it all clean. But I'm just wondering, that people have been on to me in the town, Swords, asking me about the routine for leaf cleaning in the town itself. So if you can come back to me with that. And I'd also like to congratulate the events team as well for the Halloween events there in the castle. It was a super event. So I'd like to congratulate them as well. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the speakers. I just want to say a couple of words. I'm not going to the report, but I attended the Irish Pride of Place event with the Chief Executive and the community team, and I want to acknowledge Coon Mine Lodge in Dublin 15, that won a special prize and a runner-up prize for River Valley Community Centre, and Thrive Balbriggan were in their bidding as well. So they're great community teams, and they're to be congratulated. I'm going to go to Chief Executive now for reply to that long list. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. To Councillor Quinlan's question on the Community Recognition Fund, I can give you a link to the government website in relation to it. It's the Department of Rural and Community Development and the Gaeltacht run that fund. Its purpose is to support the development of community infrastructure and facilities for the entire community in recognition of the contribution made by communities across the country in welcoming and hosting significant numbers of arrivals from Ukraine and other countries. It's an application process, and the detail of those awarded are included in this and previous CE's report. But again, lots of information available online in relation to it. You've asked for very specific data on affordable units in terms of the cost of each unit per site. That's a lot of information. If you want to submit that in writing, we can see what data is available to us on it. Certainly don't have it with me today. On the cost rental, I'll ask Mr. Carroll to come in just on the lottery-based system. It is exactly as it sounds, basically where those who consider themselves eligible and are interested in renting one of the units have the opportunity to apply. And again, on the HAP tenancy issue, Mr. Carroll, you might come in on that. Just on relation to Wilkinson's Brook, I'll read you the current position, just so that there's no ambiguity. Glenveigh Homes is currently undertaking a programme of remedial works at Wilkinson Brook in Hollystown, Dublin 15, which was initiated following reports of water ingress in a number of the houses. The works were being applied to all 69 houses to provide assurances to homeowners and residents. The programme includes an inspection process to ensure the remediation works eliminate any issues or potential issues. The completed works will also be inspected and approved by an architectural firm. Households have been offered the option to relocate temporarily to available houses in an adjoining Glenveigh development while the works are being carried out to their house. All the homeowners have been communicated with individually and have been provided with the contact details of a dedicated liaison person in Glenveigh Homes. They've also been informed that the remediation works will be carried out by Glenveigh Homes at no cost. So I suppose that is the developer taking responsibility for the defects, which we would consider should not have occurred. This is a different type of design. I think it's unique in the county, if not Dublin. So it is about delivering own-door units in a new way in terms of achieving appropriate densities. So that's the fact of the situation. Again, it should not have happened, but now that it has happened, it's important that the remedial works are carried out efficiently, effectively, and with the minimum amount of disruption to homeowners. In terms of the social housing, they too will be remediated, or at least make where works are necessary carried out, but also that any potential issues are dealt with. And again, they will be occupied when those works have been completed. So again, not something that we like to see happen, but at least now that it has been identified, it is being remediated, and that work is ongoing, as I understand it, for about at least 6 weeks now, and should be completed in the coming number of weeks. In relation to Councillor Shovlin and the Dublin 15 event, it was a good event, well attended. Myself and the Mayor had to rush away from it. It's unfortunate if Dublin 15 didn't get the attention it deserves, because we've certainly been working to deliver projects there, and I know that there's a number of new events planned for next year. So again, we'll bring that to their attention, and I might ask Mr. McAleese to come in on the programme for the new playground, if that's okay. Councillor Smith, we'll take that request for that meeting, and I'll check what's happened to it, try and make sure it does happen. And that knocks it on question. I think Mr. McAleese, you might come in on that. On the dereliction, I suppose we have scaled up our activity on vacancy and dereliction. Mr. Quinlivan can bring you through the details of that, Councillor Hopkins. So it's certainly an area that is achieving a lot of progress this year, but there's more work to be done there. But we're certainly moving through each town and village to try and deal with dereliction and vacancy, or at least have it dealt with where appropriate by the private owners. So I hope you'll agree that there's been significant progress this year, and we would have one of the lowest levels of vacancy and dereliction, I think, in the country. On homelessness, there's a full report included in the CE's report, with close to 60 exits from homelessness for individuals and families this year into accommodation. We're trying to deliver social housing all of the time. We don't always manage to get our projects delivered as quickly as we would like, but we are on site with in excess of 3,000 units, both social and affordable at the moment. So again, that will deliver more opportunities of supply and hopefully exit from homelessness. And I'd ask the Council to work with us as we bring projects through. I'll ask Mary T. Daly to come in on the lifeguards. On those internal meetings on page 54, those relate to workshops associated with improvement works in Swords. That's Councillor Humphrey's question. And again, when we have work progressed, we'll be briefing councillors, and indeed have had a number of briefings already. I don't know why all of those drone complainants haven't submitted complaints, but we are dealing with some of those complaints, and we'll reply to them in a timely manner. And again, on gritting of cycle paths and bridges, I suppose all of our work is scaled up. We have a lot more cycle paths than we used to, and I know the budget that we will be presenting next week will reflect the amount of additional work that we need to do as a local authority at the scale we're at, and whether that's providing more winter gritting or cutting more grass, it's just a symptom of the level of activity that we now are responsible for, and we do need to recognise that in our budget, and you'll have received the draft budget, which will be an indication of, I suppose, that we are looking to make sure that we can provide for all the operational work we need to do. Leaf cages, Mary T. Daly may not be pleased, but I thought that might be an option that we could roll out more of. They seem like a good solution. I'm very thankful to the residents who use them. And again, Councillor Quinn, a number of questions on removal of leaves, which I'll ask Mary T. Daly to come in on. On that, traffic lights at Clonard Street, that's not an unusual question for us. There are delays with getting power supply, and we will be using every effort we can to encourage that connection to happen quickly. I appreciate it's much needed in that area with the school. Mr. McAleese, if you can come in on the Royal Canal Way. Thanks for agreeing to the old schoolhouse master plan today. It's a plan that you've looked for, so we're delighted that it's now delivered. We will take any opportunity that arises in terms of an opportunity to look at the old schoolhouse and what it might be used for in the future, and to purchase it if that's feasible. But again, right now, that hasn't proven feasible to date. Thanks to Councillor Moera on the new centres. Very pleased to hand St Margaret's Community Centre back, our parish centre, back to the local community, and similarly with Hearthstone Community Centre on Saturday. Good work there by our architects department and by our community department, and again it's thanks to our council, because at the end of the day you approve our capital programme and work with us to secure funding to roll it out. So yeah, great to see the efforts rewarded then with those events. On CCTV, we've made tremendous progress considering it's relatively new in terms of the new legislation. We've rolled out a significant number of schemes, I'd say almost 10 at this stage. On Tyrrellstown Park, we'll take that away and consider it. And I'll ask Mr. McAleese to come in on the LAPs and strategic plans for Councillor Newman. Thanks for your comments on the tourism conference. And again, Councillor O'Brien, the directors will come in relation to your questions. Thanks to the comments on Halloween, and I was with Councillor O'Leary at the event, Pride of Place event on Friday evening. I suppose it's only when you realise, when you see volunteers being commended for their work, that you realise how important it is that we do that. So delighted for Coolmine Lodge and for River Valley, and indeed Thrive Balbriggan, to have their work recognised. It's a great event, and thanks to the work of Rafe and other staff members in the community team who help the local community groups apply and deal with the judging panel when that arises during the summer. So thank you. I'll hand over to David first.
Members, yeah, just a couple of questions. New Street, the detailed design is just complete. We've been dealing with the utilities, ESB and Irish Water, and we expect to go to tender towards the end of the year and on site next year. And obviously we'll be engaging with all the stakeholders in relation to that. In relation to the restricted breeds, I know there's a full report on the dog service on page 107 and 108, but just a few highlights. So there is 8 dog wardens in the county now. There's a licence income of 242,000 a year, and there's a breakdown by month there of, I think this year or this month we've had 43 complaints in relation to dog incidents, and you'll see a breakdown then of the restricted breed. That's 6 for this year. What we'll do is we'll compile the complete list or the complete report and we'll include it in the budget report next week, and you'll have from January to October for this year. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Just in relation to Laurel Lodge Playground, so yeah, it's great to see it go on site. We'd hope to have it open early in the new year. It's very weather dependent, the works, but we do look forward to having an official opening, and all the councillors will be giving good notice of when that's going to take place, January, February. The Royal Canal, the environmental impact assessment, together with habitat and ecology surveys, are currently being updated following engagement with Waterways Ireland. So we've been continually engaging with them throughout 2025, and a number of changes that they have requested then have had knock-on impacts just into those surveys. And obviously, as this is going to onboard Planala or the Commission, the bar is very high just in terms of crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So we're continuing to work to have that lodged in the first quarter of next year. Just on Knoxadan, I know Mr. Halpenny has been in contact with a lot of the Swords councillors in relation to pass there, and he's currently engaging with the landowner of those privately owned lands When those discussions conclude, we'll provide you with another update on that. On the Concealy, we've prioritised, given the importance of that active travel link to the growing population in Concealy, we've prioritised the active travel link over to Portmarnock train station. A significant amount of work has been done on that, and we're now moving into the phase of preparing the planning application for an application next year. Hopefully get a positive consent and move to construction then in 2027 with that really important project for the area. And then finally, just in relation to the development plan, as Councillor Newman read out there, we've been in the analysis of the current development plan, and the zone land stock has been ongoing for the last few months. We've provided 2 briefing sessions to the elected members. We're now looking at the deliverability of the 23,000 units that we currently have zone land for. And on the conclusion of that, we will be back to the members with another briefing session. Thank you.
Any more directors?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. In relation to the cost rental, it's a pure lottery system, but we do a level of screening for the initial applications. They enter a lottery, and then there's a further level, further check on the eligibility once the lottery takes place. So there's a couple of stages to go through for that. In relation to the tenancies, the HAP tenancies and the nationality, similar to the social housing list, we don't formally collate that information because it's of no. We don't need to use that in the HAP process. We would have a high level nationality check on the form in terms of EU, non-EU or Irish, but again that's not collated for each of the 244 or for any of the HAP tenancies on our system.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Councillor Shovlin, water outage, Laura Lodge. This is Ishka Éireann, so there's a dedicated line for the elected members where you can log on, but the residents should be encouraged to put themselves on the list for notifications if there is any outages, but it's now completely Ishka Éireann. I'm not aware of any leaf sweeping being paused or put on hold. Actually, we're prioritising the leaf sweeping at the moment because we want to ensure that we don't have any blockages from the point of view of heavy rain. The lifeguards, Councillor Hopkins, yes, a very interesting analysis. There's 29 rescues in Malahide, 1 in Portmarnock and 19 in Sutton. Malahide isn't a designated beach, and we have signage up advising people of that. But it is important that we do have a lifeguard hut there, particularly if we have 29 rescues. With regards to Portmarnock and Sutton, the only thing that I can think is the age profile with regards to using of both beaches. A lot of families in Portmarnock, so a lot of supervision by the families themselves, but maybe in younger age group in Sutton. But I can assure you that we have the same number of lifeguards in Portmarnock and in Sutton. On some occasions we have more in Sutton on the busy days. But yes, it is an interesting analysis that there was just 1 in Portmarnock. Possibly more signage in Malahide, I think, because there is quite a number of rescues there, and there's a number of times that we have to send the rescue craft out as well. So, but it isn't a designated beach, and we try and get that across to the public. With regards to the public lighting, Clonard, I'll just talk to the Senior Executive Engineer for Public Lighting and see if we can get in contact with them and outline the reasons why it's so important that the electricity is turned on there. If any of the residents group wish to get a leaf cage, then just email the Senior Executive Park Superintendent in each area. Oh, well, we'll get more, Mary, with the budget. We'll put more money in the budget, Councillor McCamley. Yes. Exceeded. So, but we'll be coming next week with the budget, so we have extra in there. I wouldn't have the time, Councillor McCamley. Far too busy picking up the leaves. Councillor Walsh, if somebody was charged for the green waste, they would be charged for household green waste leaves. If it's a case that they're collecting leaves, if they get the Fingal County Council bags from us and they leave it at the bins, then the district supervisors and the rangers will pick them up. Or if you even if they just send a picture into the area, the Castleknock Mulhuddard area with the location, we'll get it picked up.
Thanks for that, Marion. Just a very quick clarification. And bags can be supplied to individual residents, not just to groups. Just confirm that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's it from me. Thanks very much, Mayor.
Okay, John Quinlivan.
Mayor, the Chief Executive answered most of the questions related to my...
Okay, go on.
Sorry, Mary. I've received just today from the host Malahide operations that we would not be providing bags for leaves. It was our policy not to do that. So, just for, and certainly not to individuals.
There's no reason why we wouldn't provide bags. We can leave them. The residents can leave them at the bins. We'll pick them up. We appreciate any assistance that the residents groups give us with regards to collecting of leaves.
Okay, thank you.
I'll look into that.
Right, John Quinlivan.
Thanks, Mayor. Most of the questions for my directorate were answered already, but I would just come back in on the tourism question. Councillor McCamley, I will say Dublin 15 wasn't the only area not mentioned extensively throughout the morning. But look, the point is, and we talked to some councillors and some of the locals on the day, we really need a tourism group set up for Dublin 15. And I want to echo that, and we'll be in touch with local members to get that going.
Right, so I think that's everyone. So we have to go to the motions now. I'm going to, in order that we received them, so I'm going to Councillor Helen Redwood and Councillor John Burchell, who want to propose and second a motion. And I don't know if we're putting it up on the screen, and then if you'd like to propose and second it, and then say what it's proposed by, right, John Burchell, and second by Councillor Helen Redwood. I'll read it out, okay, that the Chief Executive and Housing Community Development Department note increasing levels of private tenancy notice of termination, brackets NOTS, close bracket, being issued in the county with the council informed of 105 NOT notices to quit from the Dublin, or tenancy, for Dublin 15 area alone, year to date, recognising that this will inevitably result in increasing numbers of homeless families given the dire shortage of alternative private rented accommodation and even emergency accommodation in some cases. And the ask is, and work to develop a response to address this intensifying crisis. So I think I'll go to the proposer first, yes?
We proposed this motion because we noticed increasing levels of NOTs in our own council casework. This was confirmed by the reply to a question from Councillor Donnelly there a little while back, where 105 NOTs had been notified to the council year to date. This is an incredibly high number. And in an environment where a notice of termination is effectively a sentence to homelessness, for many, if not most of the families who received the dreaded letter, because there's little or no rented accommodation available, especially in Dublin 15, and I believe across the county too. Just to take one example, I'm working with a family who have rented the same house since 2009. There are 3 teenage children who've known no other home. They received a notice of termination last year, and despite a desperate search, they've been unable to find any other rented accommodation. They found plenty of short-term lettings, of course, but you can't raise a family in an Airbnb. The council was looking at a tenant in situ purchase for this family, but it was cancelled when the funding was cut. The government cut the funding. The start of this year, Fingal's available revenue fell by 50% or so. The family have been through the RTB process and the courts have issued an eviction notice. Emergency accommodation is a dreaded last resort for families in this situation, where the whole family will be crammed into one room. But incredibly, in this case, even that dreaded last resort isn't an option because they aren't able to find any emergency accommodation since October the 17th. It's full. So the sheriff has been in contact and he was due to execute the eviction order last week. So when he does arrive with the bailiffs, this family will be literally put out onto the street with nowhere to go. This is the levels of homelessness that we're now seeing in the county. This family have been pushed into homelessness by the government cutting the tenant in situ scheme. They've been pushed into homelessness by the dropping of the eviction ban. They've been pushed into homelessness by the failure to regulate and reduce the level of short-term letting. So they've been pushed into homelessness effectively by government housing policy, and they're just one of 105 in the county year to date, which is likely an understatement because the council wouldn't be notified of everyone who received a notice of termination. So this is an intensifying crisis and we need to see a real response now because it's just intolerable what's happening. Thanks.
Okay, Dean Mulligan, Councillor Mulligan.
Thanks.
And then I'll go to Helen Redwood. Is that okay between you? She's the seconder. Do you want, will I take the seconder first? Is that okay, Dean?
Yeah.
And then I'll go to you, Dean. So,
Okay.
Councillor Helen Redwood.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, I think that it's easy for us to become inured to the word crisis around housing because the crisis has been going on for so long. And, you know, it's just not been, it just hasn't happened that there's been no stem to the relentless worsening of the crisis. And John's example is particularly heartrending in a way. You know, working people been living in their home, paying the rent, one place for many, many years, and then suddenly presented with the prospect of even possibly being on the street because there's no emergency accommodation at all. So people are desperate. I've got, you know, the chief executive was reporting earlier, you know, that there's been 60 exits from homelessness. But, you know, it's like the boy, that story of the boy who's putting his finger in the dam. You know, you plug one hole and leaks spring up everywhere else and ends up in a flood. And we're in something of a flood right now in terms of these notices of termination, and all the reasons have been spelt out by John there. I've got one resident who, you know, it came to me, she used to work in education. Her husband was running a coffee shop in the city centre. You know, they had to leave their rental accommodation. They've been pushed back to their parents' place, which is already overcrowded. They're in a living room. They're living in a living room with a baby that's still being breastfed, no privacy, massive mental health problems building up and so on. And, you know, I think it is worth remembering that the solution to housing, up until the 80s at least, was, you know, the council had a direct labour force. They were able to build council housing and people were being housed. And now it's quite clear that reliance on the private rental sector, on private developers, it's that has brought us to this crisis. And so as an imperative, really and truly, policy has to move away from private sector private sector provision urgently. It just does not work. And I think there has to be a way found for fast-tracking the massive land banks that do exist over in Dunsink, you know, further extension of Churchfields and so on. You know, I think the motion is asking for the planners to come back to the council with realistic ways of trying to match the scale of the problem that's been created by the notices of termination. Thank you.
Councillor Dean Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Redwood and Councillor Birchall for bringing the motion forward. Yeah, it really bothers me when we use the word crisis, because whilst I totally agree it is a crisis, the government nor any political party in government have acted as if it's a crisis. We've seen one crisis, which was the COVID-19 crisis, that was actually dealt with as a crisis, where everything was stopped in its tracks, and we've done everything humanly possible to actually deal with the situation. Now, we claim there's a climate crisis also, but words matter, and they should matter. So I hate paying lip service to something we can call the crisis when we're quite evidently not dealing with it as such. And, 105 notices to quit is a massive issue, but what's worse is that, as Councillor Birchall and Councillor Edward have already said, we're not doing anything to help people after the fact through no fault of our own with regards to the resources we have as a local authority. In many instances, the resources aren't there. And Councillor Birchall talked about how the system that we live in is starving us of any available or affordable homes because they are used as profit-making enterprises, and it's so frustrating. I had one example of a person who was awarded court who required 16 hours of care a day, which is essentially 24-hour care, because the other 8 hours they're asleep. They all are overholden for 6 months, and they're awarded court. So if they're an example of someone who actually has state intervention 100% of the time, can't get accommodation, where do we start or where do we end? Like, this is beyond a joke, and I have people that are rough sleeping because they won't go into wet hostels, or people who have been mugged in other hostels, or just been threatened in hostels or emergency accommodation when they call the free phone number. We have a real issue across the county. It used to be worse in other parts of Dublin. Fingal is just as bad as everywhere else, and we really need to do something about it nationally to get boots on the ground and get to vacant properties. Because we all seen them when we were canvassing during the recent presidential election across this county. There's lots of dereliction, there's lots of vacancies, and there's so many people in need, and we just need to get our heads together and, do something about it. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you. I'd like to support the motion. We've all witnessed the normalisation of homelessness. It's hardly even in the news these days. There's over 5,000 children in homeless accommodation, and you have families, and we all get them all the time because there are so many, doing their best. Mammy and daddy working all the hours God sends to keep a roof over their head, and then they get a notice to quit, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. There's people coming to us asking for their HAP application to be expedited, and you just don't have the heart to say to them, it's not going to do you any good because there's nowhere to rent. So I do appreciate the opportunity to discuss this. It is a huge, huge problem. It's really, really, it's an absolute sin that it's gone off everyone's radar, that it has been normalised. So thanks again, and I support the motion. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to discuss it again.
Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to support the motion as well, and thank John and Helen for raising it. Every one of us gets emails and phone calls every day like this, and if you start to get desensitised to it, then you're in trouble. When somebody gets a notice to quit and they've 3 kids or 2 kids or whatever they have, that they have to, they're trying to keep a roof over their head at this time of year, and it's 9 months the notice to quit, and that seems like a long time, but it's 9 months of absolute dread because there is nowhere to go. And anyone who has been in the fortunate position to be renting for a long time, who has a reasonably low or manageable rent, and then they get the notice to quit, even if they could find somewhere, it's going to be double what they were paying before. And so when we raise these issues to you guys, this is not a direct criticism of the work you're doing. And when you say it's 60 families of homelessness, that is brilliant, and they are 60 real families, but then we've another 115 coming in after them. So we're not resolving the issue. So again, I just want to quote from the book that was written in 1986 at Sister Stan, who died this week, who did so much work. Some of the things she said, Any civilised society must ensure that the basic needs of its children are guaranteed by the very structures of that society. Such a position goes beyond ideology, whether of the right or of the left. Human compassion and decency demands it. And she went on to say that homelessness is simply, and this, remember, this was when Sister Stan practically knew every homeless person in the country. Not when it was 16,000, when, you know, it's just numbers. She was saying that homelessness is simply not a political priority in Ireland. The politicians do not care enough about it. And it has to be said that we don't. Because if we did, as Dean said, we would be treating this like an emergency. When we had COVID, the country shut down and we did something about it. So all of us, there's an onus on us to use our voices every time we can and to use whatever power we have to get the actual government, not us in Fingal County Council, because we have very limited powers, but to get the actual government to finally treat this like an emergency. And I know I say this all the time, but imagine it was you and your kids and your family who were being told there's nowhere to go. You can't even get homeless or an emergency hub to go to. I mean, what the hell are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, I mean, we really need to do something about this. So I just want to thank the guys for raising it again. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Breda Hannafy.
And I want to thank Helen and John for the motion. Really welcome. I'm just looking at my rep system here. In the last week, 10 days, I have had 5 no's to quit. And then 1 or 2 families that are lucky enough to find emergency accommodation. The state of the accommodation that I put in is just, if dogs are put into it, there'll be an uproar about animal cruelty. But this is where people are put in, families are put in. And we just, as Joan said, we're not doing enough. We have to do more. And I think it comes down to the government. They have to face up and they have to be accountable. Thank you.
Councillor Gerard Sheehan.
Thank you. I just want to thank the guys and support the motion. Likewise, I think we have to use every opportunity we can to highlight this issue. As councillors, and especially as new councillors, I think maybe we naively thought we might be able to do something in relation to this, but it is a constant issue. I think, and I'd say every councillor here has received some notice from some of our clients in the constituency who have received notice to quit, and you really do feel frustrated with it. So I'd like to thank the guys for giving us the opportunity to discuss it further.
Sorry, David Healy.
And I'd like to thank the councillors who've submitted the motion. Looking at the Chief Executive's report, there's a detailed analysis of some of these issues, but I think it would be very beneficial maybe if every couple of months we could have something more detailed which gave the trends and gave the details of what's actually happening. So where we have the numbers of notice of terminations, we don't have the details of, okay, how many of those were suited for cost rental tenant in situ, what were the reasons, what was the progress made on that. Obviously we had a problem earlier in the year where the department stopped funding, and we had many months of back and forward before the department started funding that again. I think we should have a warning from our executive if the money is running low, if there's an indication that the department may not, we may not have the budget at any point. And I think to have a picture of how things are getting over time would be really useful, and to the picture of which responses are working and which responses aren't working. So while we have a description which says there continues to be a high demand for emergency accommodation, that is not telling us, exactly what is happening, who is getting emergency accommodation and who isn't getting emergency accommodation, to what degree, are we both in Fingal and in the wider sense meeting the emergency accommodation needs. And obviously that's a question of degree in terms of the problems which we've heard about with families not being accommodated together, or people not being accommodated near their schools in emergency accommodation. So I don't think we could get that every month, but I think maybe every quarter we might get a more detailed analysis to say, look, these are the problems and these are what we're struggling with, and I think that would help to keep it on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support the motion, but I think it's extraordinarily disingenuous for councillors to sit and just talk about homelessness in terms of pure supply, that we don't have enough houses or units or apartments or whatnot really for people. I think it's extraordinarily disingenuous to make that argument and not make note of the fact that mass immigration is a key driving factor for people being forced to compete with access to services, most especially housing. I assume other councillors actually read government documents and publish publications, like the quarterly report published for Q3 of this year. Leaving direct provision is one of the key reasons why people are presenting as homeless in the first place. The same is being reflected in Fingal County Council's figures with the publication of the Chief Executive report as well. Newly arrived to Ireland is accounting for a good proportion of that as well. And then in terms of overall homelessness, we're constantly told there's in excess of 15,000, 16,000 people homeless, and there is, but we have to recognise, or at least be willing to recognise, I know I am, I'm not sure about every other councillor, but we have to be at least willing to recognise that we have a problem stemming from central government and its policies of just unabated, unfettered mass immigration. Supply and demand will dictate that the cost of things will go up the more people you have. The more people you have looking for access to a particular service, there's not enough of the service there. When people are being served with notices to quit, the bottom line is that Irish people are being left out in the gutter, and it's absolutely disgusting. I know the council here can't really do anything much about it apart from advocate, but this is a problem from central government, and it needs a complete rewrite on policy, up to and including a programme of remigration.
Okay, Councillor Malachy Quinn.
Fascinating stuff. So, the previous councillor is laying the problems we've had in the housing, notwithstanding Councillor Hopkins reading from Sister Stan, who passed away this week, back from the 1980s, that we had a housing problem. But Councillor Quinlan decides that it sits at the door of new people coming in. When new people are coming, hold on, sorry, excuse me, sorry, Councillor Quinlan, I'm speaking, thank you.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, Councillor Quinlan, you're victimising people coming into this country. There's people coming into this country that are competing to get housing, to rent houses. The large majority of people that come into this country are looking to work on visas. They are competing for housing. That is not unvetted people or males or whatever narrative you want to put on place on that. It is not that. I'm working with people every day that come in here on contracts of nurses and carers and OTs that are looking, experienced people coming into this country looking for somewhere to live. And they're competing against everybody else in this country. That is not laying the blame, putting that you're weaponising people coming into this country. You're basing it on some narrative out there that somehow this country is being run amok by people coming in invading forces. We've been invaded 6 times in this. Councillor Quinlan, we've been invaded 6 times in the last 1,000 years. So stop talking about an invasion.
Yeah.
Stop talking about an invasion. This country.
Okay. Can we? All right. Sorry, Councillor Quinn. Can we go back to the motion? Yeah.
I just want to highlight the fact that the situation here is in places like Balbriggan, we're at the north end of the county, and emergency accommodation is just not available in North County. People are being moved to Lucan, they're being moved to Naas, and their kids are still attending school in Balbriggan. And it's extremely difficult for families, working families, that are both Irish and new people that come into this country. Very difficult for them to have a proper family life. And I lay the blame with government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Brian McDonough.
Yeah, the number of children homeless in Dublin as of the 31st of October was 3,887. That was the That's an unbelievable amount. If I consider from when we started off as being a councillor, and so the question is, what are we going to do about it? And I know that the chief executives of the councils have been lobbying at a European level for changes in European legislation to allow us to borrow more money because we're restricted by state aid rules and other rules. But there's some very immediate action that the government could take, and then there's some long-term strategic actions that I've been calling for since I was first elected as a councillor. The long-term strategic stuff is the Kenny report. If we look at the Chivers site, which has just gone, a new planning permission has come into it. I had a planning permission for 500 houses on it, or 500, let's say, homes on it, including apartments. Never got delivered. A lot of the bottleneck here is not the planning system. It's not, government inaction. It's not the mechanics of the state. It's the fact that we still haven't taken the stranglehold of the developers off of development land. They still get to hold on to it. They still get to tell us they need other stuff rezoned and then strangle that as well and then wait the opportunity. We still have an ideological problem that we haven't recognised the human right to housing, and that we haven't taken the management of the development land. I've no difficulty with private developers developing stuff or builders building stuff as is required. Nobody says a state, organisation on its own is automatically going to be able to deliver in the short term anyway. But what we do need to recognise is that what we've been doing is not working and we need to change it. And that goes for some of us. The alternative is just rezone everything, let everybody have a free flow, and I still don't believe that you would deliver what you need. In terms of really short-term options, what worked during the pandemic was a ban on evictions. Most of those children are being evicted. Most of those children are being evicted. And what also would work is a ban on short-term lets. Short-term lets on a permanent basis. Nobody's difficulty with somebody who's living in a house who rents out an Airbnb for a month while they go away. We do need to have, facilities for us allowing have maybe a year or people going different things, but there are two kind of actual concrete things that we can be done. But unfortunately, we've got a really right-wing government, a really, really right-wing government, a far more right-wing government than it gives itself credit for. And the fact is that it's still on the side of the developers, it's on the side of private property, and it is not on the side of delivering affordable housing and affordable council housing or state housing. And it's not prepared to take on the interests of land ownership in order to be able to develop a predictable number of houses every year. Every year. That's what we need. And blaming immigrants, just nonsense. One of the reasons we need to solve this crisis is because giving fuel to the fascists.
Thank you. So, Councillor Jimmy Gearan.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with an awful lot of what Councillor McDonagh says. I think a lot of the problem is where developers are, where people are holding land, and I think the action and the solution that should be taken is if you don't use it in 5 years, you lose it. And I think we need to be brave enough to make that decision in relation to zoned land. But we've also got to look at the other things. I fully support this motion. When the government, who I don't believe have addressed it in the best way they could have, but when they go about bringing in measures to make houses or to make apartments or to make units more affordable, they find that they're being obstructed and that there's JR has been taken out, which holds things up for 2 years. I discussed one development today, 580 units in Holt. It took 6 years from the developer buying it to delivering the homes. 2.5 those years was in the High Court on judicial reviews. So we all have a part to play. I would love to see local authorities out building thousands of homes because we need that too. But we also need the private sector. And I also think we need a change in the legislation that there is an abuse by a lot of people in relation to the reasons that they give for notice of termination. And that's wide open, and that should be tightened down and it should be restricted upon. I'm all in favour of that, but we've got to do both. We've got to be supportive of measures that are going to see an increase in the production of units, which is critical. and we've got to tighten the legislation in relation to people who are in a vulnerable position with a landlord who decides, you know what, I want to sell it after 5 or 6 years. Well, he shouldn't be able to, because people should have, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, tenure. They should have a right of tenure in a premises when they're there for so long. And I think there are many ways we can address it, but we've got to be honest as well. The type of things that block it is judicial reviews, NIMBYism, people opposing things in their own area, in the length and breadth of the country, not just the county. And when we face all those things, and when everybody realises that it is a crisis, and we've got to make concessions and compromises, we might then make a move on it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor John Walsh.
Thanks to Councillor Birchall and Councillor Redwood for putting down the motion. I fully support it. And, I suppose highlights, I think all of the contributions have highlighted the extent to which we face a housing emergency. And just to support some of the comments made by Councillor McDonough, just figures that I was given by our own Planning and Strategic Infrastructure Department in Fingal itself. There's 54 non-active sites across Fingal which have received planning permission for developments of 10 or more homes. And that's a total of 10,514 homes that were granted permission but never built, or never even commenced on those sites since 2019. That's 2,400 houses and over 8,000 apartments. Now, that actually, and it's horrific to say this, that's actually an understatement of the number of unbuilt homes and inactive planning permissions across Fingal alone, which is merely a fraction of the inactive planning permissions across the country. Now, this is effectively anti-societal behaviour by developers. This is a case of developers sitting on planning permissions for 5 years, rolling over the planning permission and doing nothing for 10 years. That's an absolute scandal in the context of the housing crisis. Give an example from my own area that some councillors in Dublin 15 will be familiar with. And it's actually a relatively recent planning permission at the Blanchardstown Centre, where a planning permission is in place for over 900 housing units. A controversial one, but it was approved. That was approved in 2022. Two things happened since then, and one of them, I'm sure councillors can guess, one of them was not the building of any homes or even the breaking of any ground in that site. No ground has been broken. Two things happened. 10 days after, well, let's say a short time after the planning permission, the Blanchardstown Centre went up for sale and was bought by new owners. So in a subsequent application, incidentally for parking charges, which I won't refer to here, recently submitted to Fingal Council, buried in the fine print is a statement that that development will only go ahead in the medium term due to viability challenges. So that's an active planning permission, an inactive planning permission for 900 homes, nothing has happened. And so that's the kind of thing we're up against across the county. And none of that will be solved until the government actually takes a big stick and stops offering carrots to developers and recognises that developer-led planning is at the heart of the structural failure and the structural inability of the Irish housing market to deliver homes. We need a use it or lose it clause. I agree with what Councillor Gearan said there. I think it should be 3 years, that the planning permission is withdrawn after 3 years where no progress is made towards building homes. We need to reinstate fully the tenant in situ scheme, which was dramatically cut back by Minister Brown earlier this year. Generally, the government's approach has been a softly approach towards developers, and now we're having propaganda by big builders and developers that if only they were allowed to rezone tons more land, they'd solve the housing crisis. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result, and that's what we're being invited to do. I support the motion, and I welcome it as an opportunity just to try and present a wider critique of what's going on in relation to housing. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the speakers I have. I want to say a few words. First of all, I commend the motion. I welcome the motion. And yes, I'm annoyed and disappointed at the cut to funding for notice to quit. I thought it was a great scheme. It is a great scheme, but it won't fix everything. I attended the opening of 111 homes in the paddocks and Skerries on Wednesday, the 5th of November, where I had two housing ministers in front of me. I made my speech and then I made my pitch. Maybe you'd be surprised to hear that I want us being the council and the chief executive who's beside me here, and Paul Carroll, who've done this already, to go out there and buy from the land where 23,000 deliverable homes are zoned that we should go out and buy land. We should engage, try and buy it, and if not, CPO it and buy. We're not going to buy all of it, but buy a quantum of it and be more active at it. We have done it on 3 sites already: Mulhuddard, Balmaston, Dollabate, Bordenmone, Open Swords, Bordenmone Open, or Bordenmone, is that what it's called? Borden, whatever. Yeah, or Ballyanamona, sorry. And the government gave us the money for the site with a deadline to start working there, and we met the deadline. The Chief Executive and Paul Carroll met the deadline. 3,000, at least 3,000 homes in 3 sites, probably more. And the Chief Executive has just told you that we're active on other sites and building. So it's my view that do the same, get the same. Someone said it there, maybe John. If we're not going to do something, it's not radical. We're repeating what we're doing already, but we need more money to do it more, and we need to intervene and do it now, and we can't wait 4, 5 and 6 years. We have a proven system. The Chief Executive spoke at various places, one being with the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm not sure if she said it at one. She said it at one of the housing developments I was at up in Mulhuddard, that we have a proven contract that works, a proven system that works. We have a contract that can be actioned if all things are equal in 6 weeks. So we have the system. Let's do more, but we need the government to get on board and give us money to go buy the sites, and we'd figure out how to pay after, whatever way we do it. But there's capacity here to do more. We can double and treble. And if we get more staff in, we get more staff in. But if we don't do something different and do the building of homes for all in quantum, and what I mean by that is it's win-win, it's collaboration, it's everyone to the pumps, including the builder and private developer, so who has to build a home for private people, build the homes for the social houses, build the homes for the homeless, build the homes for the elderly, and everyone on site, a mixed development site. Of course we can do it. We have done it. We did. Matthew's down there. Where's Matthew? Is he gone? He did the contract for Balmaston, or whatever it's called, out in Dollabate. Originally, I was sitting on the committee years ago going through that with him. He's done it. It's proven. So we need to get out there and do it. And Fingal needs to do it, but we can't do it without the government, how to say, repeating what they did at Ballyanamona up in Swords. But we need to be doing it 10 times more in this county. And so I commend the 2 councillors for bringing forward the motion. And I agree with the motion. I don't know if you want to reply, John or Helen. Do you? Sorry, I better bring. Forgot the Chief Executive and Paul. I better bring a response in from Chief Executive, and then go back to the 2 proposers.
Thank you, and thanks for all the contributions. I suppose just to reassure the councillors that on a daily basis the council's housing team work with citizens across the county to deal with these issues, and you can imagine if you're getting a certain volume into your inbox or onto your mobile every day, we're getting multiples of that. So this is something that's very it's front and centre in our work every day. The team provides really valuable assistance to people who are in these difficult situations. So I would ask that where you do interact with citizens who are experiencing termination issues, that you advise them to contact us as soon as possible, and we can work through their situation, their individual housing needs. Every case is different, is what we find with this. So there's no one-size solution fits all, but we do find solutions for the vast majority of the cases that come to us through one avenue or another. As the Chief Executive said earlier, we do have a strong pipeline coming through. That'll take a while to come on stream, but it's a positive nonetheless. We have additional funding this year for second-hand acquisitions as well, and as you will see in the budget, we have additional funding going towards the DRHE in 2026 as well. So there's a number of different levers that we're activating to make sure that we can address the homelessness issues and the notice to terminate issues that we are dealing with for citizens across the county every day.
I'm going to go back then to the 2, well, either or, but before I do that, I just want to put on record I've written to the 2 Ministers for Finances, the 2 Housing Ministers and the Taoiseach and Taoiseach suggesting what I just outlined to you all there, that the government gets on board, and we have to do something different. if we keep going the road we're doing, yes, we'll deliver a certain amount of houses, we won't deliver enough. Anyway, John Burchell.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to all the councillors who spoke in support. The data shows, and my own casework, that the landlord intending to sell is the biggest factor in notices of termination. The landlords make a statutory declaration that they will sell up, and I know at least some of them don't. I've got 3 cases that I became aware of where the landlords haven't sold after the 9 months, 12 months and 15 months in one case. What they've done is they've got the tenants out under a bogus declaration and brought new tenants in at a higher rent. I was able to check that the ownership hadn't changed through the Land Direct website. So a simple online check, it costs you £5 to download the folio and find out if the property's been sold. Nobody checks this. It's almost unbelievable that in the teeth of the housing crisis, no government agency is checking the validity of the statutory declarations that landlords made. So the landlords make their declaration, secure in the knowledge that basically they can do what they want. Now that's one remedial measure that could be implemented, tomorrow. Lastly, I say it's absolutely galling to have the far right use my motion to platform their racism, their anti-migrant sentiment. Irish men in suits created the housing crisis, not people of colour, not Muslims, not Jewish people, not migrants. It was Irish men in suits that have made this housing crisis, almost exclusively. They've done it to make developers rich, landlords rich, vulture funds rich. So government policy has made that class, the capitalist class, wealthy at the expense of ordinary families. And not only that, not only have they gave us a monstrous housing crisis and homelessness crisis, they put fuel in the engine of the fascists, and we saw where that leads over in City West a couple of weeks ago, with riots on the street and migrant people being battered to the ground. That's what government policy has done. And the far right has always acted as the mudguard of capitalism. It throws people into desperation and crisis, and the fascists rise up and point the finger of blame at scapegoats. And that's exactly what Councillor Quinlan did there in his intervention, his disgusting intervention on the top of my motion. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Again, as with Councillor Malachy Quinn, in my previous address, I specifically laid the blame at the feet of Dáil. I'd like the Councillor to withdraw his comments.
Well, I don't think so. Right, so first of all, I note what you said, but he hasn't.
By name at the end there, and I'd like that comment to be withdrawn.
Well, I will offer Councillor Burchell that opportunity, but I'm not going to force him to. I don't know did he name you in detail? Anyway, Councillor Burchell, do you want to withdraw your comment? No. Okay, well then, that's all I can do. So, is the motion agreed? The motion is agreed. All right, so we're going to go on to now. I have another motion here from Councillor Angela Donnelly, and being consistent. Sorry? Not? What's wrong? No, go ahead. Right. Councillor Angela Donnelly, and being consistent with my last ruling, I'm going to have to rule it out of order, unfortunately, and it's about Fort Lawn, Blanchardstown, and under section 74, the references to the Chief Executive report are not substantive enough to take the motion. So I've been advised on my left here. But Councillor Donnelly, if you want to, you didn't get a chance to speak at all about this, so if you'd like to speak on it, I'm offering you the opportunity to speak.
There's a whole section in the Chief Executive's report on housing. There's also a section on antisocial behaviour. So I'm really at a loss, and I'm also at a loss as to why it wasn't accepted as an emergency motion, considering this is going out for public consultation tomorrow. I've sent all the councillors information on what's been happening so far. The issue is the demolition of 4 homes in Fort Lawn, which residents are being asked to accept a plan that requires the demolition of 4 homes to facilitate the building of 21 homes. I suppose to cut to the crux of it and bypass all of the appalling communication, the residents have been given an undertaking that they will not be evicted forcefully from their home. So they won't be evicted forcefully. The plan is going forward, the proposed plan in phasing, which means that the actual plan that's going out for public consultation tomorrow is for two houses. And what's really, really concerning about this is that there was a motion passed at two motions passed at our local area meeting. The first one on the 4th of September, which called for a new plan that didn't necessitate the demolition of 4 family homes. And there was another motion passed last Thursday, all of which are being ignored. The democratic mandate of our local area committee is being ignored. And what's really, really, really galling is that every time I hear of a member of the executive speaking to a councillor, the conversation goes along the lines of, sure, you know, we can't give away the houses in Fortlawn. I think there is an arrogance here. I think the executives seem to think, sure, wouldn't the people of Fortlawn be delighted to leave it? Which is not true. It's a vibrant community. It won a Pride of Place award in 2022. Calling citing antisocial behaviour as a reason for this plan is absolutely bogus. The plan should be withdrawn. It's absolutely driven a torpedo through community relations, and the residents are already mobilising on Facebook for 8 o'clock tomorrow to stop the signs going up. So years and years of hard work by the community department going down the drain, the democratic mandate of our local area committee totally ignored, and for what? 2 houses. We could get 4, 5, 6 houses and keep those without demolishing those 4 homes in Fortlawn. It's an absolute disgrace, and I'm actually disgusted that it hasn't been allowed in under either an emergency motion or the C's report. And I do think it is political manoeuvring by the executive.
Okay, I'm going to take a couple of speakers, but I'm not going to go the whole lot. All right, Councillor Helen Redwood. Yes, yes. No, we're not discussing the motion, but this is the Chief Executive's report, and the Councillor waited to speak on it, and that's why I'm allowing a bit of latitude. So, Councillor Helen Redwood.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just really supporting what Councillor Donnelly has just said there. I think it's a huge mistake for the Council to proceed over the heads of the community wishes, over the heads of motions that have been passed by the councillors. I think it's highly undemocratic, and I think it's also a serious breach of trust with the local community. There was uproar when this scheme was first learned of by the community, and yet here we are back again with the same scheme, which is going to be at a, the planning process going to be at a cost to the council. It's going to cause continued distress in the community, inflame the community further, and I do think that there is a serious, or it suggests a serious disconnect between the council officials and the local communities, which, you could say that there's a general trend, as services are more and more getting outsourced, that more and more the officials are moving away from the community. There was a time when the council would be bending over to go out and discuss with the community, and that just doesn't seem to have happened this time. And I think that, whilst social housing is clearly vital, we've just spoken about it, and there's a proposition in the plan for 21 new homes, but that cannot be at the expense of completely upturning the lives of people who are living in the 4 houses that the suggestion is that they be demolished. That they've been living in there many a long year, kids are growing up there, this is their home, this is their community, and they want to stay. And I'm finishing now. I just think that the council needs to withdraw this scheme and listen to what the community and the councillors are saying.
Okay, a point of order, Tony Murphy. Yeah.
I heard your ruling on the motion. And it would appear to me that by default we're now actually discussing a motion. Under the Chief Executive's report, can everyone speak on this piece? I'm not understanding how you're letting the meeting move.
Okay.
Can you explain it, Mayor? Thank you.
Right, Grant. I've allowed a bit of latitude for, I've ruled the motion twice out of order, and I've allowed a bit of latitude for some of the local, and it's not written down in stone, that some of the local councillors can speak, and I'm going to bring it to a close and get a reply from the Chief Executive and move on then. The Chief Executive's business is then finished. We're going on to the next item. So that's what I'm doing. But I don't want to go to everyone, if that's okay. Sorry. John Walsh.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate that you're showing a bit of latitude here. I would have spoken of this under the Chief Executive's report had I known that the motion was being ruled out of order. I would just make a couple of comments in support of the comments made by Councillor Donnelly. When this plan was launched initially, and there was a briefing for councillors, and it was initially put out in public display, it had to be withdrawn. Because the community were not told. Nobody in the community was told until the night before the consultation was launched that a consultation was being launched, there was a Part 8 in progress, and their homes might well be demolished. And I think that was fundamentally wrong. And I think that was recognised when the original process was withdrawn. When that process was withdrawn, a statement was made that it had been cancelled, or an email was issued that it had been cancelled, and the residents understandably assumed that the proposal itself had been cancelled and therefore their homes were safe. And of course that was not the case. It was only the Part 8 that had been cancelled, and now this process is going ahead again. So I think this has been very, very poorly handled by the Executive. I want to note that the Council does excellent work in social housing. It has a very good track record in infill social housing. But unfortunately, I would say two things. This has been very poorly handled, and the proposal itself is fundamentally flawed. And we're now looking at a two-phase proposal, as I understand it, in which some homes will be built, and there will then be a waiting period until people agree to move out. And that would effectively mean that residents would be left on a building site, or would the threat of destruction of their homes would be hanging over them. I don't think this is how we should do our business. I think this is wrong, it's unfair to the residents, and will also do significant reputational damage to the council and damage to community relations in the area. After a great deal of good work was done by the community department and by the residents in Fort Lawn in containing antisocial behaviour. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Ellen, I have two speakers now, and that's it. Councillor Ellen Troy.
Thank you. Most of what I wanted to say has been said. I just support this motion so much. I feel after meeting the families and talking to them, it's a total disgrace what's happened. And if we're really serious about housing and trying to increase the volume of homes, I mean, everybody knows Fort Lawn, Sheepmoor, Whitestown, all around the area, there's loads and loads of boarded up houses. In fact, a stone's throw from these houses, these four that we're going to waste, take apart. I mean, they're beautiful homes. There are a stone's throw away, there are 3 homes that have been 20 months empty. 20 months. 2 of them are still empty and over 20 months now, and the other one has just been occupied in the last week. And there's a house opposite those 3. This is a stone's throw away from these 4 houses we're talking about, and it's not been used as a home, it's been used as a site to store equipment for refurbishing homes. And if you walk round the corner and walk across to Sheepmoor, there are so many houses built, ready for people to go into if we just put our heart and soul into turning them around quickly. You wouldn't think that there was that people are being serious about occupying and filling homes. If you looked around, we're in Dublin 15.
Thank you, Councillor Pat. Last one, Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for just giving us time from a local perspective just to inform the rest of the council. Won't take up too much more time. Essentially, it's been covered quite well by all the councillors who spoke here in relation to the Fort Lawn infill site. The council came with a plan where vehemently told no by the locals, went off, said, oh, we're going to shelve that. Turned out it wasn't actually shelved. The stories from the people who are impacted by this on the ground that I've heard from them, notices to quit. Oh, sorry, let me correct my phrase here. You know, the notice that the planning application was going to be going in, being handed to minors and letters being addressed wrong. I mean, clerical errors happen, but like when you're telling someone that, here, look, we're probably going to be kicking you out of your house or moving you off somewhere to level your home that you've been in for the last 25 years, it should be corrected. It should be correctly addressed to the appropriate person, and most certainly not handed to a child. On a local level, all the councillors are going to be pushing against this. If Fingal County Council absolutely persists with the plans and brings them to a full council chamber, I'd like that the whole council would reject them, because levelling 4 perfectly good family homes to make way for under 21 is just a bit, and then as well using the old mantra on the people involved, and I'm quoting them directly here, what about the housing crisis? It's disgusting, outright, it's disgusting that that people would inform, that council staff or council management would say those types of things to the people of which they are trying to convince them to move out of the house. But we will be pushing against this on local level, and if it comes to a full council level, I'd ask that the full council would reject it as well.
Okay, so that's it. Just want to say a couple of words myself. I'm not familiar with the area. I've been following it a little bit. I think we demolished 6 houses beside us here, and we built 36 apartments. It's not unusual, but there are families involved here. This is for 21 homes, I understand. And the process as set out, which is statutory, you will have the ability to reject it and vote against it if you wish when it goes through the process. Anyway, I'm going to go over to the management if they want to say some words, and then we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next item. Okay, fine.
Thanks. So just to give some overall background to this scheme, this is in relation to a development, a local authority owned development on Fingal County Council owned land. The open space to the front of the 4 homes was rezoned by the elected members a number of years ago in response to significant and ongoing antisocial behaviour, and the redevelopment of the land is seen as a way to address that antisocial behaviour in response to the concerns of residents and elected members in the area. The scheme was proposed originally last summer, and we held our hand up and we said we didn't go about it the way that we should have, so we withdrew it. We committed to reassessing the design and to engaging in a more full and appropriate manner with the whole community, including in particular the 4 directly affected residents. That's taken place over a number of months. We have looked at the design in consultation with our own housing team and with the county architects team to see what other configurations or layouts may work, and the solution that we have come up with is a phased approach of the implementation of the overall, so have the overall Part 8 planning permission in place, which has no expiry date, but we would phase the implementation of that. So contrary to what might appear to be the case, no tenants will be asked to leave. No one in Fingal County Council Executive has ever used the word evictions, and the long-term phased approach of this plan is what we are aiming for, to deliver 17 new homes for families in the area, including age-friendly and universal design homes for people with disabilities and for older people in the area who wish to remain local. This will accommodate an additional 47 people compared to what's there at the moment, and will significantly address the ongoing and serious antisocial behaviour that is taking place in the area at the moment.
Okay, Chief Executive wants to say a few words.
Just to reassure members, because we haven't had a chance to present the development, this is a development that requires planning permission. What is proposed to commence tomorrow is that planning application process. That is in line with the legislation in place and does require a democratic decision ultimately before the planning decision goes through. As always, we presented the development to the area committee for noting, as is part of our transparent process as we're bringing through all developments through the Part 8 process. In terms of vacant units and other things that were mentioned in terms of staff engagement, I just want to totally reject that. It's totally disrespectful to our staff who are involved on a day-to-day basis with our tenants in our, all of our social housing estates, dealing with proactive tenant engagement, as well as, unfortunately, antisocial behaviour at times. There is a backstory to a lot of our vacant properties. I'm happy to engage with councillors who would like to understand what that position is. But to throw out, I suppose, data that doesn't have valid research is not fair to our staff either. There are vacant properties in Fort Lawn, and there are certainly in other places as well. But we have a complete record as to why those properties that are currently vacant have not yet been let. Happy to bring the councillor through that information as well, should you want to engage with us in relation to it. On the 24 homes, this is a better use of this site. It does deliver more homes, but we fully appreciate that there are tenants currently living in 4 of the houses. We have a complete track record in terms of how we engage with tenants. There was misinformation circulated in August, I'm not sure by whom, in terms of evictions. That we were very clear that would never happen. But tenants move between our properties all of the time because it can very often suit their lifestyle, it can suit their family circumstances, and it can suit their needs as they grow older. So the fact that there are current tenants living in any of our properties doesn't mean that we wouldn't continue to manage our properties in a way that gives best use to our social housing assets, which are considerable but do require quite an amount of management. In terms of an area committee motion to stop a Part A process beginning, unfortunately that does not have effect. A Part A process in line with our process begins and goes through the process and ultimately requires a decision of the entire council. And that's what we intend to do here. I am concerned about talks of protest and about taking down our public notifications when we commence this process. That is undemocratic. That prevents us bringing through the legal process. Ultimately, if this development is not approved, it won't, that planning permission will not be granted, and that will be the end of the 21 proposed homes. However, sorry, at that time. But listen, we have a job to do. Can you let us do it? We welcome all comments, positive and negative, to this scheme. We'll consider all submissions. We'll bring them back to the chamber. You can consider them yourselves, and ultimately that will inform the ultimate decision-making process. But again, I'd ask you to be respectful to the staff who engage in Fort Lawn over the last year, particularly. A huge amount of engagement by our staff directly on the ground in Fort Lawn. So please accept that and respect it, and remember that sometimes we have a difficult job to do.
Okay, so very quickly, Angela Donnelly, 30 seconds.
I'd just like to clarify, nobody put forward a motion to stop a Part A planning process. The motion was to change the plan that went out for the Part A planning process. That's a totally different thing. And if you listened to the residents and to the councillors, we could have come up with a plan that wouldn't destroy community relations and would pass.
Okay, noted. So that's the end of the Chief Executive's report. The Chief Executive's report is noted by the meeting, and I'm going to move on to number 19, Mayor's Business. Councillor T. O'Leary, and this is for a civic reception for a well-known person in Source. The Source councillors would be familiar with this, and this motion was passed at the area meeting, the request. Councillor Newman and others put their name to the motion, many of the councillors. So it's that the Chief Executive hosts a civic reception as per the motion, passed at the Balbriggan Rushlush Sword Services B Area Committee meeting Thursday, 19 October, to honour and thank Bernie Marks for her invaluable work over many years in preserving local history, along with her work in genealogy services, and celebrate her long service to the Swords community. Can someone propose that? By Joe Newman, seconded by Councillor Smith. Is that agreed? Agreed, thank you. Okay, conference report, I'll just run through these. So 28, there's a conference report from the Irish Energy District Annual Conference, 13th November 2025, Radisson Blue Hotel, Dublin 8. Correspondence noted A, B, C and D. Noted, thank you. And then number 22, ministerial correspondence, Brian McDonough, noted. And then with great surprise, we're on to a motion. Anyway, first time since I've sat here that we've actually got to a motion. Anyway, so number 23, Councillor Brendan Ryan, addition of public footpaths, proposed by Councillor Ryan, seconded by Councillor Mary McHamley.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, the gist of the response to my motion is that this is the way we do it in Fingal, and we have no plans to change. Colleagues, Dublin City Council have a scheme called Modify a Footpath to Allow Vehicular Access. South Dublin County Council and Dunleary Rathdown County Council operate similar schemes. The DCC scheme, as with Fingal County Council, requires planning permission. Once planning permission is secured, DCC Road Maintenance Services is contacted to apply for dishing. An inspector then calls out to carry out an inspection and give a quotation for the work. Fingal County Council are the only one of the 4 Dublin local authorities not to provide this service. There's no rationale why not. Such works require a road opening licence and they are public footpaths. It's a council responsibility for public paths. The market is such that in practice the main private contractors who carry out this work and are recommended by the council are already doing bigger work for the council and are pricing themselves out of such small jobs. There's a knock-on, therefore, an affordability issue for households. Now, people are being quoted mad money for little more than a couple of hours' work. The council can carry out this work with their direct employees and mostly are, in terms of working limited contracts for bigger jobs that the council put tenders out for, as other councils do and as Dublin City Council do. There will be no costs involved because the scheme should pay for itself. If the job is done badly by a residence contractor and is a public path, it is unclear who is liable. Now, I spoke to the Senior Executive Engineer, David Coyle, from Dublin City Council in terms of preparation for this discussion, and he's responsible for the scheme in there. He told me that there's no way that they would have residents carrying out the work themselves on public footpaths. So, colleagues, I ask you to support the motion, provide a valuable service to your constituents that other Dublin councils are doing it, and there's no reason why we can't do it. Officials regularly benchmark against other officials. For example, in relation to parking charges increase, the reference is, but you know, our charges are less than Dublin City Council. For rent increases, there'll be a reference to saying the rents in Dublin City are higher than Fingal. So let's benchmark ourselves against something positive that the other Dublin councils are doing for citizens. It's only a 2-year trial. Now, I did amend the motion since I put it down first. I'm asking for a 2-year trial, and Mr. Daly can come back then and propose that it not continue if there are good reasons for it not to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Dean Mulligan.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Councillor Ryan. This is Councillor Ryan has brought similar motions forward in the past, and yeah, I mean, we often, if we have damage to footpaths for whatever reason or a rationale to open a footpath or do works, you know, a temporary road opening licence is given, and then they has to be reinstated to a certain standard, and then after the fact it has to be reinstated to the exact standard that is met. So there's two standards to be met, and I don't understand how this isn't viable in situations if they are warranted. Say, for instance, for disability vehicles or mobility scooters or something where a resident can't physically get in or out of their home, not necessarily in a car, but they might have a vehicle that or an electric wheelchair or whatever the case may be, and the footpath might just not be viable. I mean, in what instances would it preclude or aren't precluded in us actually dishing paths if if we can show a rationale for it being necessary. I have encountered it in the past, and I thought it was viable. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always hoops to go through when you're kind of trying to get these things sorted, but I don't see a financial issue with this proposal of a temporary scheme of the 2 years. And I've read, only briefly scanned the report, because I really didn't think we were going to get to motions. So I would like more clarity, and I welcome the discussion. Thanks.
Councillor Marlicky Quinn.
I'd thank Councillor Ryan for bringing this motion. I had some questions in the local area a few months ago in regards to dishing of footpaths for one particular constituent of myself in Balbriggan, and the response back from the council is that they will look at this going forward. That request was for 4 footpaths to be dished, and that was to get from his house to the shopping centre. I just think it's reasonable enough for us to consider a 2-year trial period to have a look at this, to see is it viable, is it working, is it financially prudent on ourselves as a council to do this? Because if we don't look at it this way, we'll probably have a lot of councillors looking to get dishing of footpaths in our older areas, because generally it will be our older generation that are becoming more immobile and using mobility scooters that will be requesting this. So I think that we should look at this on a phased basis and have a review in 2 years' time for it to be presented back to the council to see is it more financially viable for us.
Okay, Councillor David Healy.
Just 2 aspects, kind of connecting to the motion, and without necessarily engaging with the question itself, but which we should be taking into account either way. The first is the impact of paving of gardens on drainage, and what we need to ensure is that if we are facilitating a householder in a way with the edge, that we are encouraging, and if we can, requiring them to use permeable drainage, permeable paving in the garden, because the flooding consequences are significant, and we have experienced them. The second is the design of the dishing itself. We've had a tendency to do dishing kind of across the footpath, creating an up and down waviness for people walking along the footpath. And the practice in a lot of the continent, and it's being described as a Dutch entrance curb, is that you just dish the curb, you put a slope at the curb itself. I note from an article today that there is now an Irish supplier for those dished curbs, and I think whether it's us or a contractor, working under license to us, we should be requiring that the dishing be at the curb and that the footpath be left flat. Thanks very much.
Okay, that's all the speakers. I just want to say a few words on it. I had a case in Skerries where a gentleman had a new gate relating to his property, and per his planning permission had to dish the footpath, and was contacting me because he couldn't find a builder to do it that had or could get at a reasonable cost the road opening licence and all the insurance. So that's kind of a straightforward, obvious one. And then I had another one. So in Skerries, I won't say it's like the Wild West, but we've a lot of parking on street, on footpaths, where people bought and own from Lord Homepatrick the freehold of the piece of ground on the main street in Skerries, and access that area to park their cars. And there is one particular place which they're having difficulty for one reason or another in getting to that point, and if we dish the footpath, we lose a paid parking space. So that's a bit tricky, that one. So we'd have to look at it's case by case. What Brendan is proposing makes sense, but it's a case by case. You'll have to go through all that, and there is another solution to that. But I'm just raising it that we wouldn't like to lose scarce car parking spaces in the commercial area of Skerries, where we haven't enough of them anyway, but they're under pressure. But I think it's a good motion if we can figure out how to do it. And I have to see what the Chief Executive, or not Chief, Mary T. Daly's going to say now. Okay, over to Mary T.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I'm a little bit confused. if I don't mind saying so. I mean, if it's a case that we have, a resident come in and they have a disability and they need, we do that. There's no charge for it. We do it to facilitate the resident. So there is a procedure in place. If businesses want to dish their footpath, there's the RMO system where they apply online. It's assessed by the roads engineer. Conditions are put on it. There's a fee. The conditions from the point of view of reinstating it back. And it works really, really well, the system that we have in place. So I'm a little bit confused with regards to what we're actually looking for here. I certainly don't have the resources to reassign to a scheme like this. I have no record of a huge demand for it. If there is a requirement to dish a footpath, we generally do it. The area team will go out and do it. So I don't know what kind of scheme we're looking for here. But the scheme that's in place at the moment works for us and works really, really well. And we have clerks of works who go out and check that whoever comes in and does the works, that they're done correctly. And that's a system we've put in place over the last 4 years, and we're very strict on it. But I mean, if there's a resident that's in need of the footpath dished from the point of view of an elderly person or somebody with a disability, my team will go out and they'll assist. There's no charge for it. But if I'm going to have all residents coming in looking to have their footpaths dished, I mean, we wouldn't get the work done. So my position is as outlined in the motion, in the response to the motion.
Okay, back to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, colleagues, for your contributions to the debate. In relation to yourself, Mayor, in terms of individual cases, planning permission is actually required. So, case by case is by definition dealt with. As Ms Daly has said, not huge demand, and we usually do it. So there should be no problem to do a trial then on that basis, because there shouldn't be much to it. I would ask colleagues to basically to agree the motion, support the motion. I think it's a service to our constituents. It is only a trial. If Ms Daly wants to come back in 2 years and say, look, for these reasons it should terminate, well then that will happen if the case is strong enough. So I'm asking colleagues to support the motion. Thank you.
Okay, so the councillors asked for support for the motion. What does the room want to do? What would you like to do, councillors? Motion agreed. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Councillor B. Hannapy, Youth Services. Proposed by Councillor Hannapy and seconded by Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you. I put this in a while ago, but the need for purpose-built youth services in every corner of Fingal, it's not just an investment in our younger generation, but a commitment to fostering a thriving, inclusive society. Fingal's youth come from diverse backgrounds with varying needs in education, mental health, recreation and career guidance. They are the foundation of our community's future, and their well-being is essential for the growth and prosperity of Fingal. Purpose-built facilities ensure that tailored programmes and resources are accessible to all. They provide a safe and welcoming space for young people to gather, share ideas and collaborate. The sense of belonging reduces social isolation, strengthens community ties and promotes civic engagement. Early intervention programmes focusing on mental health, education, personal development can lessen challenges such as school dropout rates, unemployment and antisocial behaviour. Purpose-built services are critical in providing these preventative measures. Every person in Fingal deserves access to opportunities, regardless of where they live. Expanding youth services ensures fair access to resources, empowering young people across the region to fill their full potential. Including purpose-built youth services in new and, when possible, in existing bills ensures equitable access, allowing all young people, regardless of geographic or economic backgrounds, to benefit. We need to start to include purpose-built spaces for youth services in all new developments. We already cater for childcare by having creches included, and why not youth services? We need to engage with young people, parents, educators, local stakeholders in the area Their input can provide valuable insights into what type of services would support the youth. There are purpose-built youth services in Dublin City Council and other councils throughout the country. Each of these have proven to be a great success for each involved. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Malachy Quinn.
I'd like to support the motion, and just to note that the use of or the development of teenage spaces in the Flemington LAP is a very welcome move by Fingal in the planning process. But yes, I sincerely agree here that if we're developing out sites, we need to forward plan in regards to youth facilities and youth services. These with various groups and resident associations coming together, and we're looking to put in place facilities for our younger population in these estates. I think it's very important that the council would have the foresight or to work towards building and developing youth spaces. These can also be used by organisations such as Feroriga, who provide some great service across the local authority area. So yes, I very much support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Angela Donnelly.
Thank you. I'd also like to support the motion. Just to point out, a lot of the youth facilities that are in that grade are Ferroga and they're targeted, which means they're targeting the kids that are graffitiing, they're targeting the kids that are setting fires, that are going around on scramblers. It's very targeted, and it's very difficult to actually get those kids to come in to them. And just in relation to that, as an aside, I did try to have a meeting there last week with various stakeholders, including Ferroga, the Cards, and members of different sections of Fingal County Council, and that meeting was halted with less than 24 hours to go by a director. I'm still at a loss to know why that happened. It was an exploratory meeting where we're hopefully going to talk about the possibility of nighttime leagues, getting Ferroga involved, bit of networking between those people, and it actually would have been a good start to discuss the need for youth facilities in the area. So it is a big problem, and we all see it. So again, I'd like to commend the motion. Thank you.
Mr. Corina Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I just want to start by thanking Councillor Hannafy for bringing this motion. Really important motion, I might add. The UNICEF actually published a report card earlier this year, and when you look at the statistics in that report card, we all need to look at ourselves, and we need to think about our young people, because they've been failed. They are being failed by everybody sitting here in this room. They're being failed by all of us. What this report card highlights is that Irish teenagers are amongst the least happiest in high-income countries. Sadly, what it also highlights is that our young people score 24th for adolescents' mental well-being, which is a bottom half in the global world, right? Those figures are stark. 1 in 3 15-year-olds have low life satisfaction, and they're struggling in life. That's 1 in 3 Irish 15-year-olds, I might add, right? This is extraordinary. It's very, very worrying. While we rank first for academic performance, we have a serious issue. We have an awful lot of young people that are struggling with mental health and overall well-being. I work very closely with Crosscare. They have a facility right across the road. I'm actually wondering how many people in this chamber have ever visited Crosscare Youth Services. They do fantastic work, as do many other youth services across the county. But our young people are failed. I have to be honest, this is a very big issue for me. We have a very young population in Donabate. We raised a question with the Minister for Justice recently because we're seeing an increase in antisocial behaviour in my area. And one of the reasons we're seeing that is because children, young people, and these are good children, they have nothing to do. They're hanging around and they're getting involved in antisocial behaviour. 22 youths from my area have been referred to youth services in the last year, and those numbers are going to increase. We need to see dedicated youth service provided all across Fingal. This is a very, very big issue. These children need to be supported at an early age, otherwise they will turn to drugs, alcohol and serious crime. I also have to add, I found it extraordinary, my colleague Duncan Smith also raised this very matter with the Minister for Youth, Education Youth, and I was surprised and quite pleased that to be informed by the Minister that supporting youth services is a priority for the Minister and her department. So let us all see our young people feel they have no voice, they need to be supported, and we need to see youth service provided all across.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Paul Mulville.
Thanks, Barry. I want to strongly support Councillor Hennepy's motion, and she's made a very strong argument. And indeed, people will be aware that in the Dublin City Council area, the City of Dublin Youth Services Board, which comes under the Dublin City Council, has the remit for the Dublin City area only, and it's a great misfortune that it doesn't that a similar structure isn't in place for the county and other parts of the country, because over the many years, I think since the 1950s, the City of Dublin Youth Services Board has put in place, worked with communities to put in place and fund a lot of youth services. Sorry about that. That's my own youth issue there. But I think it's really important, and to target the point that Councillor Johnston has made. You know, we've had a strong campaign in recent months in Dublin Bay Portrane area for the provision of a dedicated youth service, because as Councillor Johnston has mentioned, the cross-care service across the road has been. Sorry. I'll be taking it out of the baby's college fund now, so don't be pushing me too hard. So,
sorry, can I just interrupt you, Councillor? I want to extend the meeting to finish this motion by a few minutes, if that's okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Mulville. Between calls.
It's on silent, sorry. Yeah, but just to support the motion strongly, and specifically in the local area, the need for, in all our areas, but I'm talking about Dublin Bay Portrane here, we need to have a space provided for cross-care to run dedicated youth services, which have been funded for by the Department of Justice to provide for rapidly growing areas in Dublin Bay, Portrane, and of course other areas equally need the same. Thanks very much, Chair.
Councillor J.K. Onawera.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to support this motion. My primary constituency is youth work, and I have to commend my colleague, Councillor Hannapy, for bringing up this motion. Youth work is invaluable to the development of young people, and essentially, their cohesiveness and a happy community, it can't be overemphasized. So ensuring that we have youth work services through the availability of community centers that are dedicated to this work is very, very essential. So I couldn't overemphasize the need for us to look into that, even if the county council can build them directly, but I think supporting it through getting the department to ensure that we have community centers built in, the appropriate communities to ensure that we have youth services operated in those communities with astro pitches, room for community meetings and the youth meetings. I think it's really very important. So I welcome this motion and strongly support it. Thank you.
Councillor Chair Sheehan.
To welcome the report as well, and thank Councillor Hannapy for bringing it up. I think we all know the in-betweeners, those kids that aren't involved in sport and maybe could be wayward bound. So having a purpose-built youth service, I think, in all new areas, I think is a great idea, and to try and focus on those kids and keep them on the straight and narrow. And thank you.
Hey, Councillor Joan Hopkins.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to welcome the motion as well. I don't know all of these places, but just the one that's listed for Baldoyle Volunteer Youth Club, that is the only youth club that I'm aware of, is a building that's in private ownership, and Crosscare do one evening a week there, I think. So it's not a Fingal community facility. We really owe it to the young people in Fingal. They need, every time we let them down and we give out about they're hanging around and they're up to this, that and the other. We need to give them a place to go, somewhere that's safe, and we need to be funding it directly from Fingal County Council. So I do welcome this, but that list, I mean, look, there's nothing in Howth, there's nothing in Sutton, there's nothing in Portmarnock, there's nothing in Malahide. You know, there are not youth services around the county for people, and as the last speaker said, a lot of kids who are into, you know, music or, you know, whatever else they're into, and they're just not into sport, organised team sport, they want to do something else, they need a place to go. Thanks.
Councillor Patrick Quinlan.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll be brief. I'm happy to support the motion. I don't see any councillor that wouldn't be happy to support the motion. Absolutely, we need to establish a system in which there is purpose-built youth services for kids in a lot of these new developments. It's vitally important that kids are seriously incentivised out of life of crime, particularly in my constituency. It seems to be a little bit of a trend with the youth and lads on motorbikes and stuff like that. I know a lot of people are just going to blame the antisocial behaviour and blame the influence, but at the same time I kind of do understand a little bit that they do need somewhere to go. And then just rounding off support for Councillor Hanafy's motion, I have a motion on the agenda, item number 26, commercial business support scheme. Basically, we had a situation where we had an off-road track at the back of Mulhutter. It was shut down because the insurance was too much. The amount of motorbikes on the roads dramatically increased, and the amount of motorbikes being used, shall I say, in council estates and stuff like that dramatically increased. So hopefully we can get programs and systems like that in place to support businesses that help curb this anti-social behaviour. Thanks.
Councillor Breen McDonough.
Yeah, I think where we do provide services, they're done quite well, but I think the community department and provision of services, particularly in places where we're developing new houses, is not keeping track. The investment is not keeping track with the volume of houses that is coming on stream. And I think it's particularly important. We're very good at providing for sport not just as a council, but in Ireland we're very good in voluntary terms, in terms of organisational, and we're very good at backing, where there's already investment. But it's a bit more difficult, and we shy away from putting that investment in having those community centres. And the thing about having a purpose-built one means that's definitely what is going to be used for. And under purpose-built, I would include adapting particular places. Again, I have somewhere in mind in Portmarnock. We've got huge development around those areas, and I think it's important we don't. Obviously we want to prioritise areas of disadvantage, but we can't abandon other places where we see massive expansion and potential issues arising when we've got large numbers of young people coming in through particular estates and areas. Thanks.
Okay, that's all the speakers. So is the motion agreed? Oh wait, no, sorry, I have to go to Paul Carr. Jumping the gun again. Paul Carr.
Thank you. As you can see from the report, Fingal County Council does a huge amount in terms of facilitating the operation of youth services at a huge number of locations across the county. But the provision of youth services is not within Fingal County Council's remit, and you'll see that there's no funding within the annual budget for the provision of youth services. So whilst we do everything we can to facilitate the operation of those youth service providers, and we work closely with them across my own department in community and housing, but also across other areas of the council, the actual provision of those services falls to a range of different other service providers, all of whom we work very closely with, but not directly provided by Fingal County Council. In terms of the provision of infrastructure, such as the buildings listed here, and indeed the new buildings that have come on stream recently, including refurbished Hunstown, St Margaret's Hall, and soon to be opened Baldoyle Community Centre, we will always work closely with new and established youth service providers to make sure that as many areas as possible and as many of the youth across those areas as possible are able to be served by those dedicated youth service providers that do operate within Fingal.
Okay, so that's it. And back to Councillor Hanafy.
Thank you, and I really want to thank everybody for their input. Just a little example here. When you look at the size and the population of Dublin 15, there are only 3 areas, community centres, that have facilities for youth services. Just take Mulhuddard, for example, Tyrrellstown. The new housing estates that are going up in that area, there's absolutely no adequate facilities for the youth in the area at all. What they are looking for and what is needed is when school's finished, that's when young people need to go into youth service to avail of them, where they can have, where they need somewhere to go, especially in the evenings, where somewhere safe, somewhere secure with their peers, where they have support. So, as I said, I'm looking for, please God, in future planning, that we will plan for youth facilities in new developments, and where possible in community centres that are coming on board and being refurbished. Thank you.
Okay, so...
Sorry, I'd like the motion agreed.
Is the motion agreed? Agreed. Meeting concluded. Thank you.